Joe, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, how you been? Pablo, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? T, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Woodhouse, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles or CMF. Free and Faber, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Mickey, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Good evening, mate, and all CMF. Paul, good to see you. So how you doing? Free and Faber, good to see you. How you doing? Hello, Miles, Olivia, good to see you. So how you doing? On vacation, south of France. Sorry, no being here recently. No problem. Woodhouse, enjoy your vacation, brother. Hi, Miles. Hope your weekend was good. Happy to see you again. Let's go on to see. My weekend was good, yes. But I do think I'm coming down with some sort of a flu right now, but I'm not sure. Miles, why always dumping? The market's not always dumping, but obviously we do have the USDT situation going on, which is, taken out of proportion, to be fairly honest. The whole USDT situation, which we're going to go through on tonight's live as well. Is going to be a big crash. Is a big crash coming in? Depends. Not a big crash, I'll say turbulence, but it depends. When is USDT getting delisted from Euro, Miles, and you think the market will tank because of it? Do I think the market is going to tank because of USDT? Tank is a strong word. Drastically being affected, yeah, sure. But tank is a very strong word. I'll explain more the moment I do the disclaimer. So let's talk about what we're going to do. What we're going to be talking about on tonight's live, and then I'll go through the disclaimer, intro, and so on. And that'll be the first question that I'll be answering is regarding USDT. So on tonight's episode of CMF Live, we're going to be talking about BlackRock's IBIT, because new numbers have came out from Bloomberg on the recent reports of how much BlackRock is essentially bringing in towards the Bitcoin ETF space. Then we're going to be talking about how countries are shifting towards crypto as a reserve asset, and that a lot of countries are actually getting more on board and preparing for a Donald Trump presidency. And these countries are getting ready for a crypto regulatory approvals, crypto regulations, laws, essentially a reserve asset for cryptocurrencies. So then we're also going to be talking about MoonPay essentially gaining an MiCA approval license in Netherlands, and why that's an important piece of news for XRP and essentially for RLUSD as well. Then we're going to be talking about essentially BRICS' expansion, and how BRICS' expansion of the countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, Egypt, all these countries that were supposed to join BRICS, it really isn't working out for BRICS by the looks of it. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live. Then we're going to be talking about Hong Kong in terms of their lawmakers now proposing to add Bitcoin to their national reserve. Hong Kong is getting, step by step closer to creating a Bitcoin reserve because they don't want to get left behind from the American market space when Trump takes into power. And then we're also going to be going through Ondo Finance on tonight's live as well. The first time the last time I talked about Ondo was when it essentially first released inside the market space. But Ondo Finance has essentially partnered up with Plume Network, so we're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. Plume Network is a project that I've talked about previously, but it still hasn't launched to the public. Then we're going to be talking about A16Z essentially joining the legal fight against the Treasury and the IRS. There are a few essentially blockchain association companies that are suing the IRS right now due to their new DeFi regulations that are coming into place. Then we're going to be talking about China. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Because America, the biggest market space in the planet Earth, essentially, going towards crypto assets, creating regulations, Trump coming into power, new SEC chairman, a lot of changes are happening inside the market space. And I did say no country wants to get left behind. And we could probably, we're seeing that more and more with every essentially piece of news that's coming inside the media from every jurisdiction around the world. They're all preparing. And so is China. The People's Bank of China, the Central Bank of China, has talked about and put it in their reports that they actually do need to have some regulations. Then we're going to be talking about MicroStrategy essentially planning to buy another essentially $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Then we're going to be talking about essentially another company that's also following MicroStrategy's footsteps, acquiring more Bitcoin holdings. Then we're going to talk about essentially crypto represents a international capitalism, a perspective coming from one of the partners at essentially how Anderson Howards and the CTO of Coinbase. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding how 80% of Japanese banks are now preparing themselves for 2025 for the XRP takeover. So, mixture of news to go from tonight's live regarding Japan, regarding Saudi Arabia, regarding essentially Russia, BRICS countries in general, perspectives from CEOs, data reports to go through, more purchases coming through, regulations to go through. But before we go through any of those news topics, I just want to say to everybody watching right now, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching us for the first time ever, this is episode 302 of the CMF Live right now you're watching, which is incredible. And on this live, I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. And if you're a regular, let's go CMF. By the way, I want to say thank you so much to everybody that's retweeting this live right now on X. Thanks so much to everybody that's retweeting this live on X and get notifications. The retweets and likes and the comments outside the live. Thanks so much for everyone that's doing that right now on X. And thank you so much to everybody that's also liking this live on YouTube as well. I'm putting a comment outside the video on YouTube. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding BlackRock and IBIT and the ETF reports that are coming out from Bloomberg, let's go inside the comment section first. And there was one question I wanted to answer, but I said, let me do the disclaimer first and then I'll answer, which was USDT. Okay, the big situation that's going on right now is USDT. The whole delisting of USDT, is it going to impact the crypto space drastically or tank the entire market space? So some of the crypto, the majority of the crypto space assumes for a second that, USDT getting delisted from EU is going to tank the entire crypto space. Look, what I would say is it's going to cause turbulence, but tank is a strong word. Here's what I would say. USDT, if USDT was going to get essentially delisted and there was no replacement for USDT inside the EU market space, then yes, that would have impacted the market space even more. But because there is a replacement essentially for USDT inside the EU market space, which is essentially USDC, which they have a license, and URC, which is the equivalent of a euros, essentially stablecoin in the EU market space, and they've ranked up about roughly about $1 billion worth of essentially transfers coming into their stablecoins in the EU market space since USDT was banned. Now, on those topics of USDT situation and, is it going to be bad for the market space? Yes, but not to a, major level. And it all depends on how much they try to milk it. Because USDT is not getting essentially, USDT is not the only stablecoin inside the market space, but I'm trying to say for the EU, they do have a replacement. So it's more like USDT is getting faded out rather than it's getting delisted and essentially there's nothing available inside the market space. So, but it all again depends on how much the whales try to milk this scenario, how much the whales are going to dump inside the market space the moment USDT gets delisted inside the EU. Are they going to be essentially dumping on the market space to cause this panic situation? So it just all depends on how much they try to milk it. But the further they push it down, the faster people will buy and bring it back up. So you got to presume that as well. So it's not going to tank the market space. Tank is a strong word, but it is going to cause turbulence inside the market space. But if people inside the retail section are smart enough to realize that the whales are just messing with them, and this is, it's not a good situation, just depends on how you look at it. USDT getting delisted, it means that RLUSD could potentially essentially slowly take its place. Not potentially, but will take its place. But for now, USDC is taking its place because they have a license to operate. But there are matters and news on that essentially equation that MiCA, for example, has just approved MoonPay, which we're going to go through on tonight's live as well. And that MoonPay is one of the exchanges that has listed essentially RLUSD as a stable coin on their market space. So that's also good news as well, which we're going to go through more on that in tonight's live. But in general, as a conclusion, USDT is going to cause turbulence inside the market space. It's not going to tank the entire market space, but it does depend on how much the whales try to milk this scenario. But the faster it goes down, the faster it's going to come back up as well. So consider that. But if you are somebody that's holding USDT in the EU, please refrain from using USDT and start using USDC inside the EU market space. And every other jurisdiction slowly is going to follow the EU's footsteps in terms of stablecoin regulations. So be prepared slowly in 2025 for USDT to be delisted essentially from other jurisdictions around the world also. The EU isn't going to be the only one that delists USDT, but every other jurisdiction around the world is going to follow their footsteps. Now, Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles. Hope you've had a great Christmas. Looking forward to the New Year's, and thank you for all the excellent advice over the last 2 years. No problem, Addy. Addy, thank you so much for the kind words, and I hope you had an amazing Christmas as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to the New Year's and essentially the following year afterwards. Hi from Malaysia, Shakira, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and family. Bull XRP, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. JP, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Do you XRP can get to $25 in Trump's first 100 days in office? It's possible, yes. Under the correct rules and regulations, XRP can do potentially amazing numbers essentially under a Trump administration, but given within the 100 days, everything is sorted out. For XRP to reach its target prices that everybody wants it to reach, there's a few things that need to happen. One, the XRP case with the SEC either needs to be dismissed or settled. That's the first green tick. The second green tick XRP needs is rules and regulations due to the market space it's in, which is the financial market space for banks and institutions to get involved. Once we have regulations, then the adoption part starts. It needs 3 green ticks to be able to move forward. We still haven't got the first green tick, which is the case that had been dismissed or settled, but that is going to be happening in 2025, and it should happen under the Trump presidency, especially from the first 100 days. We get that, then we get the regulations on board adoption, and then XRP can reach those numbers that everybody wants it to reach in 2025 and 2036 and so on and beyond. Evening, Miles of CMF. Jason, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? If USDT gets unlisted, means some buy RLUSD, it means that the EU is going to be going for essentially USDC for the time being. But then RLUSD is still going to get licensing, to be fair as well, in the EU. It's very easy for RLUSD to get licenses in the EU, believe it or not, because RLUSD essentially has no issues with showing transparency, which is one of the things that Ripple said that they're going to do with their stablecoin, which is every month they're going to show transparency in terms of the reserves backing their stablecoin. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? When can we see a highest price of a coin like XRP and XLM? And the highest point you're going to be seeing them is the more regulations adoptions we have. So we need those 2 green ticks. January 18th, Ondo 2.57 billion tokens unlocks coming 25%. That could be a big sell-off. It can, yes, that's true. Chosen, yep. Thank you for the update as well on the January 18th on Ondo. Good day, Miles. Dale, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good day, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? USDT today by Bitcoin. Yes, it is true. Tether did invest into Bitcoin about $700 million, but they sent their Bitcoins into their Binance Reserve account, to be fairly honest as well. Green screen. Yes, it is a green screen. Well done, genius. I've already said multiple times it's a green screen behind me, but it couldn't get more obvious. It says restream here. What goes down must come up. Exactly. What goes down must come up does apply to legitimate crypto assets. It applies to any sort of legitimate asset, to be fairly honest. I already converted my USDT to USDC. That's good. Bro, why the fake background? Because I like the background. What's wrong with the background? Hi, Miles of CMF. George, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Do you think 8,000 to 10,000 XRP is enough to be wealthy in the future? 8,000 to 10,000 XRP is a substantial amount. I'll be very honest. If you hold it long enough, you can reach those price targets, and one day you can borrow against your crypto assets and use them as collateral, which means you don't pay any tax. Now, if you hold it long enough, you can probably outpace people who are holding essentially more XRP than you. So it's an amazing amount to have, and you do have an incredible future ahead of yourself. Good evening, Miles, and good to see you, brother. Good to see you, Kenny. How you doing? How you been? Now, BlackRock is the first news we're going to go through on tonight's live. BlackRock's IBIT ETF breaks records as the fastest growing fund. A new report essentially just came in from essentially Bloomberg. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. How you doing? Morning, Shelly. Perfect timing because we're about to go for the first news. BlackRock news. Bloomberg, in its latest report today, has spotlighted BlackRock's ETF records, which has smashed industry records in its launch year itself. It noted that no other ETF has ever had such an exceptional debut as its growth in this massive market space, more than $50 billion in assets in less than a year, which makes it the fastest growing cryptocurrency ETF in history. IBIT's size grew to match the combined assets of essentially over 50 long-established European market-focused ETFs. Todd of Stargate Securities highlighted essentially that this notes, while Nate Garcia, the president of ETF Store, has called it the greatest launch in ETF history. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF essentially wasn't just a massive, and the fastest growing ETF for cryptocurrencies in American history, but it was the fastest growing ETF in general out of ETFs, every type of asset space. And then Bloomberg's intelligence analyst, James, who is essentially working alongside the other ETF specialist analyst that's coming from Bloomberg as well, noted that IBIT's growth is unprecedented. It's the fastest ETF to reach most milestones, faster than any other ETF in any asset class, he said. At the current asset level and expense ratios of 0.25%, IBIT can expect to earn more, essentially about $112 million of year, he added. Notably, Larry Fink, the firm's CEO, who once criticized Bitcoin as a tool for global money laundering, has now shifted his views as he began to view Bitcoin as digital gold. BlackRock's entry into the essentially spot Bitcoin market space, supported by its strong ETF track record, led to the approval and the launch of the first ever essentially Bitcoin ETFs in January. Following this approval, BlackRock alongside Fidelity, Van Eck, Grayscale, and others launched their first cohort of US Bitcoin ETFs together, and these 12 funds have now approximately managed over $107 billion in assets. IBIT now holds the more assets than BlackRock's gold ETF, the second largest essentially gold fund globally. Notably, Garcia believes that IBIT in 2025 could surpass SPDR Gold Shares, the largest gold ETF, barring a collapse in the price of Bitcoin. IBIT's success also marked a significant turning point for Bitcoin, potentially boosting its legitimacy and acceptance inside the financial market space. It also played a significant role in pushing Bitcoin's price above $100,000 for the first time, attracting both institutional investors and formerly skeptical essentially individuals. Remarkably, IBIT and other Bitcoin ETFs have contributed significantly to boost Bitcoin's 118th price rally this year. And since its launch, IBIT has only had 9 days of outflows and typically accounts over 50% of their essentially daily trading volume in their group. It is quite remarkable that, a Bitcoin ETF is not only the fastest growing, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is not only the fastest growing, ETF inside crypto space, but it's the fastest growing ETF in general in any asset class. But that is a report that just came out from Bloomberg to, put some weight behind the crypto space, that going to 2025, we're still moving strong, incredibly strong inside the crypto space. Now, moving away essentially from the Bitcoin ETF news, but a little bit more of a Bitcoin news, but this one's more related to countries. Every country wants to compete to become this massive crypto hub. Hong Kong wants to do it, Japan wants to do it, Dubai wants to do it, London wants to do it, Paris wants to do it. There's a lot of countries around. Singapore wants to do it as well. Latin American countries want to do it. The UK wants to do it. And America is the one that's pushing every country to go towards this whole Bitcoin reserve, rules and regulations for the crypto space, all in 2025, which is all amazingly positive news. And it only is because of Donald Trump, who takes the crypto space seriously and realizes that this is going to become one massive, essentially, market space going to 2025 and beyond. And if they don't jump on it, they will get left behind. Even China is thinking about essentially getting involved inside of the market space in terms of rules and regulations. We're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. China's own central bank has put in their reports that they do need rules and regulations in China. Otherwise, they will also be left behind. So on that topic of countries essentially shifting towards crypto as a reserve asset, is Bitcoin the new essentially gold? A perspective coming in from the CEO of CryptoQuant. So Ki-Young Ju, the CEO of CryptoQuant, highlighted the evolving parallels between Bitcoin and gold INX. Historically, economic crisis sparked debates around the gold standard, but the US avoided retreating to it. Instead, creative solutions have sustained its economic dominance. Today, Bitcoin occupies the ideological space once held by gold, raising questions about its role inside the global financial space. Besides its growing influence, Bitcoin continues to gain traction among nations exploring Alternative reserve assets. El Salvador, adapting a Bitcoin essentially as a legal tender in 2021, now holds nearly 5,944 Bitcoins, worth over $560 million. Similarly, Brazil has introduced legislations for a sovereign street Bitcoin reserve as well, proposing that 5% of its international reserves to be allocated towards Bitcoin. All of this is coming in 2025 in terms of Latin American countries. Bitcoin offers nations unique advantages, including transparency through blockchain and resilience against inflation. Its potential to outpace gold has sparked interest globally, and the use of Bitcoin as a reserve asset is still up for dispute, particularly in the US, where some still believe that the dollar is the best alternative. President-elect Donald Trump recently proposed creating that street Bitcoin reserve Bitcoin stockpile, and this initiative suggests that retaining forfeit Bitcoin to bolster financial security. However, Trump's campaign theoretically has orchestrated between Bitcoin advocacy and prioritizing the US dollar for dominance. Moreover, analysts suggest that Bitcoin's role inside the US financial strategy hinges on external threats to economic essentially dominance. Without genuine challenges, the dollar's supremacy remains unshaken. Nevertheless, the conversation around Bitcoin as a street essentially asset reflects its growing relevance. Besides providing essentially an inflation hedge, Bitcoin's technological network positions it as a compelling reserve asset. For more nations like El Salvador and potentially Brazil, Bitcoin is a tool for economic leverage. However, for the US, adapting Bitcoin would essentially signify a shift in its financial strategies, and the debate intensifies as Bitcoin evolves into a global contender for reserve asset classes. However, secure storage, legal clarity, and diversification with traditional assets remain critical for widespread adoption. It is true, a lot of countries still don't have essentially a lot of countries still don't have regulations, but a lot of countries are heading towards regulations. We're seeing that more and more, especially with the MiCA regulations, which are moving quite strict, but that's only because they want to preserve their market space. But Singapore's coming out with essentially a lot of rules and regulations. Hong Kong's coming out with a lot of rules and regulations. Latin American countries are coming out with a substantial amount of rules and regulations. India's coming out with rules and regulations in the crypto space. Japan is coming out as well. A lot of Middle Eastern countries are on board. The UK is also getting ready for some documentation and rules and regulations for the crypto space in 2025. A lot of things are going to be happening in 2025 for the crypto market space, and it all is massively positive news for the crypto space in 2025 in terms of rules and regulations, and then banks and institutions adoption is actually happening because banks and institutions don't have to operate in gray areas no more in these particular countries around the world, or in every country around the world. And his perspective coming in essentially as a CEO of CryptoCon and Kisu Yongjong, his opinion is valid, to be fairly honest. I mean, he's talking about how every country is going towards that Bitcoin reserve. Every country is going towards rules and regulations, and they're all preparing for a 2025 takeover inside the crypto space. The next clientele entering the crypto space is going to be institutional clientele without a doubt. Now, keeping on the topic of rules and regulations, MoonPay is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about MoonPay, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into MoonPay news in terms of the EU as well. Let's see where we're at. Hi, Miles and CMF. I'm listening, but away from the computer from Stormy. Good to see you. How you doing? By the way, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. Zach, how's it going, Miles? It's going great. Good to see you. How you doing? Yeah, it's important to have 10,000 XRP is a high number, but having 10,000 XRP is a great number. Was a good amount to have. 10,000 XLM. 10,000 XLM is a great amount to have as well. Take a long time for bull run. Some say biggest bull run for history. The biggest bull run in history is going to be happening moving forward in 2025 and 2026. Under a Trump presidency, the market's reaction is going to be all positive. What Trump brings to the table as a president is essentially institutional money, because when Joe Biden essentially was in power and still is until January 20th in the Biden administration, all they did was damage the US economy. And when the US economy is damaged, the rest of the world's economy is also damaged. And as much as the people that want to, who back Joe Biden want to lie and say the US economy is doing great, in reality, it isn't. What Trump brings to the table as a president is essentially institutional adoption happening inside the crypto space, more money entering the crypto space, corporates paying less tax, which means they have more money to flow back inside the companies, hire more people out, essentially give out more bonuses. All of this is a massive positive inside the institutional space, which makes the corporates in America happy. And when the corporates in America are happy, they're more willing to spend more money and they're also going to be making more money, in the most simplest way to put it. What's your opinion on Algorand, considering it's the only US-based and ISO certified blockchain? Technically, there's no such thing as an ISO certified blockchain, and few crypto projects do, essentially abide by the regulations that are set for the ISO, the standing messages. But there's also the other ISOs, which there's 20071 one as well, which is for security purposes. So there are a few crypto projects that actually match what an ISO crypto project should be, what ISO blockchain should be, but none of them are certified, to be fairly honest. But there are a few crypto projects that match what needs to be done for it to be a certified project. Now, in terms of Algorand, essentially, Algorand is a great project, there's no doubt about it. If you want to hold on to Algorand, why not? Algorand also has a contract going on with one particular EU bank to create a stable coin. So there is one EU bank that is working with Algorand. They're creating a stable coin. They announced it, about 6 months back, essentially. Miles, I hope so. I will empty my account to buy gold. You will empty your account to buy gold. Not really recommend in any sort of a way, but then again, I can't give you financial advice. But I would never empty my account to buy gold in any sort of a way. I would empty my account to buy XRP. To be very honest, is truth. BlackRock is buying XRP. Is it true that BlackRock is buying XRP? No, it's just rumors. There is no proof, any sort of evidence whatsoever that BlackRock is buying XRP, but it is all rumors for the time being. Now, on the topic of do I see BlackRock in 2025 going into the XRP space? Yes, I'll be fairly honest. There are so far about 4 to 5 XRP ETFs that have been applied to the SEC. Obviously, none of them have, essentially, none of them have been even looked into because Gary Gensler is a useless SEC chairman, but he is resigning on January 20th when Trump takes his seat. With a new SEC chairman, the ETFs that are happening for XRP, about 4 to 5 of them, I could see essentially BlackRock also applying for a XRP ETF without a doubt, because it has the biggest potential inside of every cryptos project out there. Miles, Semper, good to see you. How you doing? Even Miles, the CMF, please, good to see you, Semper. Miles, your thoughts on the SEC case of XRP? You think they drag it out or they end it? I'm thinking drag it out just to punish the crypto community. Your thoughts? I don't potentially think they're going to be dragging it out even more inside the SEC. The XRP versus SEC case is one of the longest standing crypto cases pretty much to date. It's one of the most talked about cases inside the crypto space as well, but there is no reason for them to drag it on even more, because having a new SEC chairman is essentially the signal we need that this case is going to come to an end. Because with Gary Gensler being into power as the SEC chairman, no matter what the results are from the courts, and that was one of the reasons why XRP could never catch a break with the SEC, because no matter what the results were from the courts, Gary Gensler did not approve of them. There was actually an interview of Gary Gensler with a news journalist outside the courts with the first results that came in with the Ripple versus essentially SEC case, where the judge essentially ruled that XRP secondary sales are not essentially securities and so on. And there's an interview of Gary Gensler essentially with a news journalist saying, what do you think, what the courts have said and so on. And Gary Gensler essentially, sorry, this was about 2 days before the courts gave the judgment that XRP sales are not secondary sales do not count as securities. So 2 days before that, Gary Gensler was doing an interview with a journalist, and the journalist said to Gary Gensler, what do you think the court's results are going to be? And if they're not what you think they're going to be, what's your opinion about that? And Gary Gensler said to the news journalist that he doesn't care what the court's verdict is, and that he sees these crypto assets as security. So when you have a SEC chairman who doesn't abide by Congress's regulations, who doesn't listen to Congress, who doesn't care about what the judge says, that's what you get. You get a case that keeps on continuing and continuing and continuing, and essentially appealing and appealing and appealing. It's because Gary Gensler had already made it up in his own small little peanut brain that no matter what the judge's opinion is going to be on XRP moving forward, he's always going to reject the judge's opinion, because he said in his own words, he doesn't care about the judge's verdict. And about 2 days later, we had the judge come out and say XRP secondary sales are not securities. I'm guessing the judge didn't really like Gary Gensler saying that on live news. But now essentially Gary Gensler resigning, January 20th coming, Trump taking his seat essentially as the president of the United States, the biggest market space on the planet, and a new SEC chairman coming into power, essentially, the Ripple case should not be dragged out, because the new SEC chairman we're going to be having is going to be a pro-crypto SEC chairman. And also, there has been conversations with Hester Peirce, for example, the SEC commissioner, who has previously came out and said that this is not the SEC's agenda to go after crypto companies, but it is the chairman's agenda to go after crypto companies. And Hester Peirce has also previously said that there's no point of the XRP case whatsoever, and she is a SEC commissioner. So, and we've had essentially many people from who are former commissioners of the SEC or former essentially CFTC chairman, they've all came out and said the Ripple case makes zero sense. And under a new chairman, it should either be dismissed or settled. And that's what I do think is going to be happening. The Ripple case is either going to be dismissed or settled in 2025, because there is no possible reason of why Paul, the new essentially SEC chairman, Scott Atkins, essentially be in any sort of a way trying to drag the Ripple case on. And also, it's not just the SEC who is going to be regulating the crypto space moving forward. It's the CFTC and the SEC who's also getting a new chairman as well. The CFTC is going to get a new chairman, but it's the CFTC and the SEC working together in 2025 and beyond on regulating the crypto space at a much more faster pace. Because America's moved so slow on regulations, and in terms of crypto adoption and regulations, America is 11th on the list. The worldwide list of crypto adoptions, America is ranking 11th. And that's not good. America is the biggest market space on the planet. So with Trump coming into power, new SEC chairman, new CFTC chairman, Trump is actually he has said before, and Trump administrations have said as well, that they're going to get the CFTC and the SEC working together on regulating the crypto space so they can move at a much more faster pace. All of that is good news for us. The faster they move, the faster we go into regulations, the faster these cases will drop, and the faster the institutional money will enter the crypto space. So I don't think they're going to be essentially carrying it on any more longer, because they can't. The whole reason that this man has been chosen as the new SEC chairman is to bring some positivity to inside the market space, the American market space for crypto assets. So I don't think there's no reason for them to carry it on. So that has to be either dismissed or settled. If they do carry it on, what an absolute moronic shows that's going to be. I hope so. I will end. Okay, let's see where I was. True. Okay. Trump. Yep. Trump is the best leader. I agree. Yes, 100%. I've always said, thank God Trump won. Greetings, Miles and family. Hope all is well. Ray, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? You're not getting any comments from X. Joe, I'm not getting your comments from X. Okay, Joe, it's good you're on YouTube now. I don't know why that happens sometimes. Some comments don't come through on X, and then you have to go on YouTube for comments. Apologies about that. I don't know why X sometimes that does that. XRP is my main bag, John says. However, do you think there is going to be time when we maybe have to accept that the price will not hit 3 to 4 digits? I must say that I'm extremely confident in XRP. Just sometimes after holding it for 3 years, doubts creep. Great question, John. Great question. John's essentially biggest bag, he said is XRP. John has also said essentially that, do you think there has to be a time when we have to accept that XRP will never reach 3 to 4 digits? No. XRP is definitely going to reach 3 to 4 digits under the correct rules and regulations and adoption rate happening, in my opinion, and also because of what I've been reading throughout the years. Now, in terms of essentially, you've held your confident in XRP, which is great, but sometimes, after holding it for 3 years, some doubts are creeping in on you. That's perfectly fine to have. If you're having doubts on any asset that you're holding, what I've always said to people is to go back to the drawing board and make yourself understand why you're holding this particular crypto asset. So I've said to people, if you're ever having doubts on holding XRP, if you're ever having doubts on holding XLM, XDC, HBAR, or whatever asset you are holding that's a legitimate crypto asset, if you're ever having doubts about any of these crypto assets, go back to the drawing board and read the PDF documentations, because that's what you need to do. You need to make yourself understand why you're holding XRP, because XRP is going to be a financial asset, a medium for transfers of essentially domestic payments and international payments. Why you're holding XRP? Because XRP is going to play a massive role in the world of CBDCs. And as much as some politicians or some jurisdictions or even presidents and prime ministers want to reject the idea of CBDCs, they can't, because the Bank of International Settlements has too much power, the World Economic Forum has too much power, the International Monetary Fund has too much power, and they've all came out with reports that essentially 98% of centralized banks own CBDCs. The number one crypto asset playing the biggest role in CBDCs is XRP. Now, it hasn't shown signs of that because we don't have regulations in place, and it's only been in development mode for the time being. But every single bank, every single centralized bank around the world is going to be coming up with CBDCs. They're going to be coming out essentially with retail CBDCs and wholesale CBDCs. And there is only one crypto project essentially till date that has a platform for CBDCs. Essentially, is Ripple, and XRP is their tool. But essentially, 98% of centralized banks, Ripple essentially being the only crypto asset that has CBDC awards. Most people don't even know about this, but there are CBDC awards. There are 24,000 plus crypto projects, and XRP plays a massive role in the CBDC world because it's the only one that is in the CBDC world since day one. It's won CBDC awards. They have essentially a CBDC platform. They have a country that's using XRP, basically pretty much Ripple's CBDC platform as a backbone, as test grounds essentially. So keeping in mind that tokenization is going to be a big market space, or essentially gaming is going to become a big market space, AI is going to become a big market space. And some people are saying, they're seeing it themselves, oh, XRP is getting left out from the ETF space, or XRP is getting left out from the reserve institutional space in terms of the reserve assets and so on. But it's not getting left out in any sort of a way, first of all. And second of all, it's playing the biggest role in CBDCs. The biggest role in CBDCs. So if you're ever having doubts on any assets you're holding, go back to the drawing boards, read the PDF documentations, read the PDF from the Bank of International Settlements titled Cross-Border Payments, where XRP is listed. Go to the Bank of England's website. The Bank of England, if you search in their search bar XRP, PDF documentations roll up. If you go to any centralized bank around the world in terms of G20 countries and type in XRP or Ripple, PDF documentations will roll out, and their testings that are going on. In terms of XRP reaching 3 to 4 digits, it's very, very extremely, in my opinion, not even possible, but guaranteed, in my opinion, for XRP to touch 3 to 4 digits. It's guaranteed, in my opinion, not financial advice for anybody else, but my own opinion from documentations that I've read, 3 to 4 digits for XRP is guaranteed, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but my opinion, it's guaranteed. Now, I've had to come on YouTube to ask my question, will Trump lift sanctions with Russia once he stops the war with Ukraine? Yes, he has to. It wouldn't be overnight. It wouldn't be, the US removing sanctions overnight, but it is Trump. You never know. He does like to move things quick, and he does like to go against the norm. And when it comes to Trump, which is why a lot of people like him as well, because he's a bit of a wild card, which is what is very good essentially, because the rest of the presidents will try to go through a lot of paperwork, and it'll take years for something like that to happen. But Trump's like a wild card. He just rolls up into North Korea and shakes the hands of Kim Jong-un suddenly one day. So you never know what Trump's going to do, but it's all positive news. Now, in terms of Trump essentially ending the Russian war, Ukraine war, it's going to happen. He's already had conversations with Putin. He's already had conversations with Zelensky that they're going to be ending this war when he comes into power. And all this is going to be happening in the first 100 days again. Now, in terms of, essentially US removing sanctions from Russia, that's also going to be happening as well, because if that war is ended, there's no reasoning for Russia to be sanctioned. Now, some sanctions might still, be in place to keep Russia a bit steady and not being able to catch up to the US market space. But the rest of the sanctions should be removed. The same way the US sanctions China in a way, not fully sanctioning it, but trying to keep it in its place. For example, as I said previously, like new AI chips that the American market space produces, the newest AI chips, they don't make it across the border to China in any sort of a way. What actually happens is American companies that create all these technological advances in AI and computer chips aren't allowed to sell their most advanced chips to the Chinese market space. They have to sell previous generations to the Chinese market space to keep the Chinese market space behind the American market space. So that's what I was trying to come to regarding, yes, they'll remove the US sanctions, but they might keep one or two in place just to keep Russia in check for the American market space to still be dominating the entire market space. But yeah, they should be removing the majority of them, is what I would say. The first 100 days is what I would say. Miles, on the 1st of January, they released XRP from escrow. Do you think this will impact the prices? It shouldn't really impact the prices in any sort of a way, because XRP has been released every month, essentially. And it doesn't really affect it. A lot of people try to make it a big deal. Not saying you are in any sort of a way, Bull XRP, but a lot of people always try to make it a big deal on something that keeps on happening every month. Every month, XRP is released from the escrow. It's got to a point where it's just, like nobody cares about it anymore. It's not new in any sort of a way. This has been happening for years. XRP getting released by the end of each month has been happening for years. And every month, people try to make a big deal about it. Or XRP is going to be dumping again. XRP is dumping. More XRP is going to be released. It's been happening every month for years. So it's got to a stage where you shouldn't care less about it. But on the topic of the timing and this time around, it's happening exactly at the same time USDT is going to be delisted. So USDT causing turbulence inside the market space due to the whales that are going to be milking the whole USDT scenario. And they really shouldn't, but that's what they do. And XRP essentially releasing that amount of XRP inside the market space is bad timing is what I would say, but it shouldn't really affect the market space. But then again, whales are people who like to manipulate the crap out of anything. Agreed, all about himself. Let's go, Puka. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? By the way, if you're wondering, I read everybody's questions one by one, give an answer, because everybody's taking time out of their day to put a question up. So I like to answer everybody's questions. Thank you, sir. I agree. It will be tossed out near the second quarter. Exactly. Alex, hi, Miles and family. Good to see you as well. Alex, how you been? Miles, why the dip on XRP? The dip is not just on XRP, but in general, the entire market space, to be fairly honest. Do you think tokenizations will start in 2025 on XRP Ledger? Do I think tokenization is going to be happening on the XRP Ledger in 2025? Look, what I would say is if the case for XRP first needs to dismiss or settle in 2025. Once the case for XRP is dismissed or settled in 2025, and XRP has the regulation it needs inside the market space and it is regulated, then within the first 100 days, we're getting the rules and regulations for the market space. And XRP should do incredible movements inside the tokenization space. There's not another crypto project that even compares to XRP when it comes to the institutional space. People like to, sometimes say, Chainlink is top ranking when it comes to institutions, and there's a lot of crypto assets. Chainlink's not a bad asset, to be fair. It's a great asset, just want to point that out. But there's a lot of crypto projects that are inside the institutional space, but nothing tops Ripple in terms of being inside institutional space. They have the most amount of contracts inside the institutional space. They have the most amount of licensings outside the United States. In general, Ripple has such great connections and partnerships and contracts in place with institutions. They're playing the biggest role. And once they, get inside the field of tokenizations, we have the correct regulations within the first 100 days. We're pretty much good to go on that matter. So it should happen. We should see some movements. Will you stop taking my opinion? It's going to be 3 to 4 digits. Stop taking my opinion. It's going to be 3 to 4 digits. Happy New Year's to Miles and family. Thank you, Trump 1. Let's go, Golden Dragon. Happy New Year's to you as well. The New Year's for the UK is going to be tomorrow. Happy New Year's to you. USDT has 6 to 18 months before it's delisted. It doesn't comply by then. Why is everyone so worried now? USDT doesn't have 6 to 18 months before it's delisted. USDT is already delisted. You're getting your information, Mickey, from somewhere. That's wrong. USDT is already delisted from Binance. It's already delisted from Coinbase, which is pretty much the biggest crypto exchanges on the planet. So it's not that USDT is going to be delisted within 6 to 18 months. USDT is already delisted. People in the EU cannot be using USDT. They don't even let you do transactions on USDT from exchanges to exchanges. They don't even let you buy it in some exchanges. OKX exchange delisted USDT a long time ago due to the EU market space regulations. And Tether doesn't look like it's ever going to be entering inside the EU market space. Tether has to abide by one rule: show transparency. And they don't want to show transparency and hold some of their reserve assets in EU banks, because Tether claims banks will fail, which means that Tether will get impacted and so on. But then the EU's argument is, if Tether depegs, we don't have your reserve assets, we can't back our market space. And if you depeg, it damages the EU market space. So we need your reserve assets in our banks as well. But Tether is already delisted. It's not that it's going to get delisted. It's already delisted, pretty much, on all exchanges operating in the EU. And the biggest exchange to date still is Binance, and they've already delisted them as well. So it's not that it's going to get delisted in 6 to 18 months. It's already delisted. Great answer. Thank you. In your mind, John, great answer. Thank you. No problem, John. In your mind, do you have a time frame that you would think XRP will start to hit those prices? In my mind, the time frame for the financial market space to be at the starting point, at the finishing line as well. The starting point in terms of for XRP inside the financial market space should be 2025. XRP's starting point is 2025 because a new SEC chairman, dismissal of the case, rules and regulations, Trump bringing everything in. Rules and regulations means no more gray areas for institutions and banks, which is the #1 clientele for essentially XRP to be used as a medium of payments. Playing in all those factors, the timeline is pretty much 2025 to 2027, essentially, for XRP to be showing those numbers. KCX, what? Do you think XDC can get to $25? Do I think XDC can get to $25? Yes. Not giving you a time frame, but yes, it can. Have you heard about the fake fog all over the world? Yes, I have. There's videos going around that there's a fake fog, in the UK, and there is fog in the UK. I'll be very honest as well. But there's fake fog that's going around pretty much around the whole world, and it is making people ill. Now, I'm also incredibly ill right now as well. Not incredibly, but starting to be ill. I'm taking some medication for that, but I don't know what's going on with that whole UK fog. Am I in UK? I'm in UK and use Binance. Am I okay to use USDT on there? T said. If you're in the UK, you're perfectly fine still using USDT. USDT is not banned in the UK. USDT is only banned in the EU market space, not the rest of the world. Canada has also banned USDT as well, to be fairly honest. But the EU is the one that's banning the USDT, not the UK. But saying that, the UK is going to follow the EU's footsteps in terms of banning USDT as well, because the UK is also going to have strict regulations and policies when it comes to crypto assets. And they're definitely going to follow that one. Now, going into the next news on tonight's live, which is MoonPay. MoonPay has gained a MiCA approval in the Netherlands. That's amazing news, to be fairly honest, because MoonPay is one essentially crypto exchange or platform that does offer RLUSD, which is great news. MoonPay, a prominent player inside the crypto infrastructure sector, has achieved a significant milestone by obtaining markets and crypto assets MiCA approval in the Netherlands today. This accomplishment is anticipated to enhance the company's ability to provide crypto payment solutions throughout Europe, fostering greater interest among Dutch investors in the burgeoning crypto market space. This is amazing news, to be fairly honest. Tether getting delisted, and then MoonPay, which is one of the platforms that offers RLUSD, getting approval inside the EU. Perfect timing. The MiCA approval, confirmed in recent posts by MoonPay on social media, grants the company the authority to facilitate crypto asset payment services across the European region. This regulatory endorsement is seen as a pivotal in bolstering the MoonPay service offerings. The European Union has recently released a draft of the MiCA policy set to be implemented by the end of 2024, which aims to mitigate a market essentially abuse. This draft introduces crucial standards for identifying essentially and reporting suspicious activities, thereby ensuring a smoother operations across the board. Additionally, MoonPay now new services for Dutch users are essentially likely to uplift market sentiments, and the introduction of these services offers fresh opportunities for participants engaging in cryptocurrency trading. Despite the inherent volatility that Bitcoin and other essentially major cryptocurrencies present, to navigate this landscape, a cautious approach is advisable for potential traders. MoonPay's MiCA approval enhances its service capabilities in Europe. The firm plans to acquire Halo to further essentially improve its offerings, and the new MiCA regulations will help prevent market abuse. With the approval in hand, MoonPay intends to continue its expansion efforts in the EU. This trade move positions the firm to reinforce its presence on the continent, contributing to essentially the overall legitimacy of the crypto services across the Europe. It's incredible news, I'll be fairly honest. Perfect timing. USDT getting banned, MoonPay, which is one of the platforms that offers RLUSD, getting approval in the EU. Perfect timing. Now, RLUSD still needs to get its own approval inside the EU, but it's still great to see essentially, a platform that offers RLUSD straight away getting a license. Perfect timing, where USDT is getting delisted. Now, the next news we're going to be talking about is actually moving away from MoonPay news to BRICS. BRICS expansion is failing, believe it or not. So we're going to talk about that next. But before we do, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any comments, put it down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. Morning, Miles and CMF. Hope everyone is well. I'm late. What did I miss? Quite a bit, Solomon. I'll be fairly honest, but towards the end of life, I'll do a gist of what we talked about. But good to see you. How you doing? What's the lowest you see XRP going before January 20th, Trump's regain? But here's the thing. Great question, Donnie. And thank you for putting in all capital letters. What's the lowest you see XRP going before January 20th, Trump regain? Okay, the closer we get to January 20th, the market should be showing a positive sentiment towards the crypto space, because they know Trump's coming into power with some regulations and USDT chairman. So in technicality, the closer we get to January 20th, the market should be showing positive signs, to be fairly honest, because Trump's coming into power. So we shouldn't see low numbers. The closer we get to January 20th, we should actually start to see some movement happening inside the crypto space, rather than low numbers. If we do get low numbers, it's just manipulation. But the closer we get, we should be seeing, money flowing inside the crypto space, and we're seeing some positivity happening, because the excitement of Trump's coming into power should be happening. But then again, we are still under a Biden administration, and Biden's administration are a bunch of circus freaks that try to manipulate the world's market in any means of possibility. So if we do see the lowest ends happening, from where it's standing, it shouldn't go more than 30 probably cents lower. Salute, Miles and family. Good to see you as well, Davey. How you doing? How you been? Now, BRICS. I've talked about BRICS before quite a lot, in terms of BRICS trying to create a alternative currency to the US's dominance. And well, here is the BRICS scenario. BRICS is failing in terms of their expansion. And I've said this before, that BRICS most likely is going to fail. It's because I said it's difficult to replace the US dollars. As much as everybody wants to argue the point, which is valid, to be fairly honest, as much as everybody wants to argue the point that the US dollar is a useless currency, it has no backings, they keep on printing more and more and more, and it's creating more inflation, and so on, and everybody's going to move away from the US dollars. It's going to be difficult to move away from the US dollars, extremely difficult. It's not as easy as people assume online is, overnight countries will just drop the US dollar. It's not going to be possible, because a lot of countries hold quite a lot of US Treasury bonds, they hold quite a lot of US Treasury Ts, they hold essentially quite a lot of US dollars in terms of their assets as well. And US dollars is still the #1 currency used for trades worldwide. And then with Trump coming into power, we're going to see a US dollar that is strengthened instead of weakened. So, as I said previously, BRICS expansion is failing. Russia's bid rejected by Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Saudi Arabia, who was, quite big on the news of joining BRICS. And there was this topic about, if Saudi Arabia joins BRICS, then the Middle Eastern countries are going to rule the oil world, and that America is going to get left behind from the oil world, because there are so many oil Middle Eastern countries in the, in the BRICS nations that's going to be joining them, and BRICS will, control the oil prices and rule the oil world, and America will get left behind. Yeah, that didn't really work out too well. As I said previously, the only reason countries essentially like, in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, even exist as an infrastructure, and the reasons why essentially Kuwait pretty much has the platform it has, or Qatar, or essentially Bahrain, or even the United Arab Emirates, essentially Dubai, and so on. The only reason that these places even exist and have these massive buildings and these massive corporations and this massive movement, the money flow that's coming into them, is because of American oil and gas companies. The only reason Dubai even exists is because American oil and gas companies. So it's going to be difficult for countries that are funded by American companies to leave America behind, because that's never a good idea. If you bite the hand that feeds you, essentially that hand will bite you back, is what's going to be happening. And Saudi Arabia realized this situation, and they decided to move away from BRICS, because they know if they join BRICS, America will dominate them. The BRICS have been presenting themselves for several years as a credible alternative to the economic bloc such as the G7 countries. In its context of increasing rivalries among powers, Russia has undertaken steps to expand this alliance. Russia wants to expand BRICS nations. It then invited essentially Saudi Arabia, Turkey to join its ranks. Moscow hoped to strengthen the essentially BRICS alliance and influence on international stage and face the pressures from essentially Western economics. However, These efforts encountered a brick wall. A brick wall is what is hitting right now. This setback illustrates the interest among these nations, as well as the challenges the BRICS are facing in expanding their sphere on influencing in the world where geopolitical balances are becoming increasingly complex. To increase the influence of BRICS on the international stage, Russia has tried to convince Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest oil tankers out there, and Turkey, two major geopolitical players, to join this economic alliance of BRICS. This initiative aimed to strengthen the bloc's weight against Western powers, and according to diplomatic sources, Moscow highlighted considerable advantages, including enhanced operations for corporations in the fields of trade and energy. Despite these promises, the Russian democracies has resulted in rejection from both countries. Saudi Arabia and Turkey have rejected a BRICS invite. On one hand, Saudi Arabia, although it maintains a close, essentially economic ties with influential BRICS members like China, deemed it risky to become more engaged in an alliance that could jeopardize its strict relationship with the West. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds it. The hand that feeds Saudi Arabia is America. The hand that feeds essentially the United Arab Emirates is also America. The hand that feeds Kuwait, Bahrain, all these Middle Eastern countries, all these big, essentially oil powerful countries are all backed by American big and powerful oil companies. So how the hell are they going to be possibly leaving and joining BRICS? Because if they join BRICS, then America will cut them off. And if America cuts them off, those countries will not be able to survive. So Saudi Arabia came to the conclusion that maybe they shouldn't leave the American or the Western nations behind and join BRICS because it's a terrible idea. On the other hand, Turkey, a key NATO member also, opted for a more cautious approach, concerned about preserving its essentially freedom of action on the international stage. It preferred to maintain a loose alliance rather than essentially integral into the structure perceived as too rigid. This double rejection further clarifies the obstacles Moscow faces in an attempt to expand the influence of the BRICS, notably against priorities of its potential partners. The failure of Russia to convince Saudi Arabia and Turkey reveals a profound gaps in its diplomatic strategies. While Moscow attempts to reshape the world order in its favor alongside China, the approached countries managed to maintain their strict independence. Saudi Arabia, which maintains a constance in its economic relations with China, continues to value its historical essential ties with the United States. Saudi Arabia does not want to, get on the bad side of America, because if any country decides to get on the bad side of the US, it's pretty much the end for that country. Such a move demonstrates its concerns for balance between two competing blocs. On its part, Turkey, due to its NATO membership and regional ambitions, prefers to keep an autonomous posture, focusing on essentially partnerships rather than integration into institutionalized essentially alliance. Turkey says, look, we will work with the BRICS nations, but we don't want to be a part of the BRICS countries, because the moment we join the BRICS nations as being a part of them, then America will not work with us, and we want the US to be on the on the good side with Turkey, not the bad side. So Turkey said, look, we'll work with the BRICS nations, but we don't want to be a part of you. So we'll just work with you country to country, but we're not joining BRICS. Saudi Arabia just blatantly rejected BRICS' idea. And Turkey, due to its NATO partnership with essential regional ambitions, prefers to keep autonomous posture. This setback for Russia could, however, merely be a setback in a strategy aimed at expanding the BRICS circle. Moreover, some observers suggest that the alliance could intensify its efforts to include other strict important nations, particularly in Africa or Latin America, essentially. Furthermore, its episodes raises questions about the viability of truly coherent bloc. The diversity of national priorities within the blocs, within the BRICS, coupled with the often conflicting interests of potential partners, calls into question the group's ability to essentially project a unified influence on the international stage. The competition between economic blocs continues to redefine the world order, fueled by strict opportunities and increasing rivalries. In this context, the BRICS find themselves at a critical juncture. And their ability to attract new members, essentially harmonize sometimes, and their interests will determine their future in the role of an international stage. This dynamic triggers essentially particularly attention from observers who see in the expansion of BRICS as essentially a key issue for the upcoming geopolitical balance. There's not a single country that wants to go on the bad side. They don't want to go on the bad list when it comes to the US. Because if the US sanctions you off as a country, you start to struggle economically. So a lot of people, for the longest time have been presuming that, the US dollar is going to get replaced, or BRICS is going to come into power, and, China and Russia are going to be the new leaders of the world. In reality, people assumed BRICS was going to come into power and every country was going to be on the same balancing playing field. BRICS, as I've said previously, was never about a unified of countries coming together and using each other's currencies, and everybody's happy, and it's like everybody's living in this rainbow and sunshine world where every country is using their own currencies and every country is doing well. The world isn't a great and happy place. The world is a very cruel, manipulated, coordinated place. And if you haven't realized that by now, you should realize it very quickly. BRICS was never about essentially unified countries using unified crypto, using each other's currencies and so on. BRICS was about China and Russia taking over the US market space. That wouldn't have been a good thing in any sort of a way. Russia, as much as Putin might be a strong leader, he's not the leader that should be in control of the world. And as much as essentially China and so on, China should never be in control of the world. China is a very manipulated and twisted country. To be fairly honest, the people of China are incredibly sweet and incredible people. The people of China are incredible people. It's the people that are in control of China that are very manipulated people, to be fairly honest. So, regarding BRICS, good thing it didn't really work out, to be fairly honest. And a lot of people also, correlate XRP to BRICS. And they think, BRICS coming into power is good news for XRP. Let me just put this to you very clearly. As I said multiple times, BRICS existing or BRICS not existing, XRP will still play a role in the financial landscape. Okay, if BRICS exist, doesn't matter on XRP, it's still going to be good news. If BRICS doesn't exist, it's still going to be good news for XRP, because these countries are still going to be using as a backbone for their CBDC world in terms of wholesale CBDCs and retail CBDCs. So if BRICS exist or doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. XRP is still going to do very exceptionally well as playing a medium payment in terms of wholesale CBDCs and retail CBDCs. So just keep that one in mind as well, because a lot of people just correlate straight away BRICS and XRP is a good thing. It doesn't matter if BRICS exist or not, XRP will still play a role. Full stop. Full stop. XRP will still play a role. But as I said, previously, BRICS is not going to be working out. By the looks of it, no country wants to get on the bad side of the US. And I did say when that whole Saudi Arabian news was coming out, Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, BRICS is going to control the oil world. I said, no, it isn't. I said Saudi Arabia, the only reason Saudi Arabia even exists is because American oil companies. The reason why the United Arab Emirates, everybody talks about Dubai and so on. The reason why Dubai or Saudi, essentially United Arab Emirates even exist, the UAE, is because of America. It's the only reason these countries in the Middle East have these powerful corporations, these nice buildings, and these, essentially massive real estate environments or big market space is because of the US. If they bite the hand that feeds them, those countries will go back to dust and desert. To be fairly honest, if the Middle East rejects the US, the Middle East will go back to being a desert. Just to put that in perspective, because a lot of people assume that these countries can all of a sudden, like the movies, turn their backs on the US and nothing will happen. If you turn your back on the US, and especially if the US was the one that made your country to existence, if you turn your back on the US will put you back in your place. You have to realize this by now. The whole world is about power and greed. Nobody wants to give up power in this world. Not a single country wants to give up power. They want more power. It's about control. It's always ever been about, since day one. It's always been about power. Which country do you know that goes, we're going to give up and give our power away? There's not a single country on this planet that wants to give up their power. They want more power. It's all about greed. This entire world is all about greed and manipulation and coordination. And that's never going to change, no matter what market space we're in. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, honestly, the US is never going to lose their number one place. And to put in perspective, everybody talks about, we go into a digital world, the US was going to get left behind and so on. I said, no, it isn't. The number one currency, fiat currency in the world is what? The US dollars. That's never going to change. Now, the moment we go into stable coins and so on, the number one stable coin in the world right now in the digital world is what? It's not the Chinese yen, it's not the Japanese, it's not the Chinese essentially yuan, it's not the Russian ruble, and it's not the Indian rupees, these BRICS nations and so on. The number one stable coin in the world is the US dollars. In a fiat world, the number one currency that's dominating is US dollars. In a digital world, the number one currency that's a stable coin dominating is the US dollars. For a stable coin to be strengthened, it needs to have what? For a stable coin to be a very essentially a very strong stable coin and backings, what does it need to have? A US stable coin, for example, USDT or USDC or ORL-USD, for all these stable coins to exist, they need to have what backing? USD Treasury bonds. The more these stablecoin essentially the more Ripple buys Treasury bonds, the more essentially Tether buys Treasury bonds for USDT, the more Circle buys Treasury bonds for essentially USDC. What happens to the US dollars? It gets strengthened. So the ideology of the US dollars will be pushed alongside, and countries will come forward and everybody will work together like we're living in some la land. It's never going to exist. Number one stable coin inside the digital space is the US dollars. And the more these US dollars keep on climbing the ranks, the more they have to back their US dollars. And how you back the US dollars is by buying treasury bonds. What does treasury bonds do? Well, it backs the US dollars, which makes the US dollar strength. So the more Tether climbs, the more USDC climbs, the more ORL-USDC, the more Ripple stablecoin ORL-USD climbs, the more the US dollars will become strengthened because they're buying treasury bonds, which backs the US dollar, which makes the US dollar strengthened. There's a basic lesson for you, for everyone that's watching right now. So yeah, anybody that still thought till this day that, the US dollar was going to get pushed to the side because we're living in some Hollywood movie, it's not. The reality of it is never going to get pushed to the side. It's going to rule over in the fiat world. The US dollars will be number one in the fiat world. The US dollars will be number one in the digital world in terms of stable coins. That's never going to change. The US will always be number one. Some people might reject that idea and say, no, I don't accept it. The world doesn't care. Just to let you know. Some people might reject the idea. Some people say, well, I'm backing the US and so on. I'm not backing the US in any way. I'm trying to tell you how the world operates and to bring you out of some sort of weird mindset, because some people are stuck on some weird mindsets that, the US is losing power and they're going to be crumbled and, other countries will take their place. Never going to happen. I'm not backing them. I'm telling you how the world operates. It's never going to happen. The US will always be number one. The number one market space in the world will have the number one dominating currency in the world, and that will never change. Just trying to tell you how the world operates. But other people inside the crypto space, will come out with some random ideologies that the US dollar is going to go to zero and so on. How can the US dollars go to zero when the number one stable coin in the digital world is US dollars? For a US dollars stable coin to exist, they need US Treasury bonds backing it, which means the US dollar gets strengthened every time Tether buys US Treasury bonds, every time Ripple buys US Treasury bonds, every time Circle buys US Treasury bonds, which means the US dollar will always be strengthened because of what? Stable coins in the US and the world. Just keep that in mind. The US dollars will always be number one, no matter what. If you don't like it, tough. Get used to it. From the first January turns green. Let's see what other questions we have going on. Do you think, let's go inside the comment section. As I've said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. Is perfect timing or is it all coordinated? Regarding MoonPay, seems a bit coordinated. It seems a bit coordinated, which is a good coordination. Do you think that we'll be in a bear market again? Do I think we'll be in a bear market again? Sure, why not? Not every crypto project is going to do excellent on the rules and regulations. There are, a handful of crypto assets that will do incredibly on the rules and regulations because they have licensings. Ripple will do incredible. XRP will do incredible on the rules and regulations because they will have licensings. XLM will do incredible. XDC will do incredible. HBAR will do incredible. AVAX will do incredible. Obviously Bitcoin Ethereum will play their role as well. Chainlink will do quite well on the rules and regulations. ACH will do well on the rules and regulations. Near will do. There's a multitude of crypto assets that should do incredibly well on the rules and regulations due to the amount of licenses licensings they have. But experiencing a bear market, the more we're going to adoption, the less a bear market will affect legitimate assets. If we're going to a bear market, and for example, we have adoption happening, we have, for example, if the Ripple case is dismissed or settled, XRP's case is dismissed or settled, and then we have rules and regulations, then we have adoption happening, XRP is being used as a medium of payments for domestic and international payments. A bear market doesn't really affect XRP in any sort of way because now XRP is being used. The main purpose of a crypto asset is utility. The more we go into utility, the more the market will have a less effect on legitimate crypto assets because the utility is now being used. So we'll move away from this whole cycle of 4 years up and down because we went to utility. Utility will trump the whole ideology of essentially being in this cycle of bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market, the moment we go more into utility. The bigger the adoption rate, the faster we're going to move away from traditional market cycles. You have such an incredible knowledge. From the 1st of January, market turns all the way till the end of 2025. From the 1st of January, the market turns green all the way till the end of 2025. Chosen, let's go. I believe so as well. It should do, very honest. But Trump is still in power. I mean, and Biden administration is still in power. Anything's possible from those circus freak shows. But Trump, is going to rule the world and do an incredible job at it. You have such an incredible knowledge of what's going on. I need to know that you're not AI generated. Lol. I'm not AI generated in any sort of way. I'm a human being. But, I'm very grateful of the wisdom God's given me, to be fairly honest. The wisdom that God's given me, I'm very grateful in that matter. But I'm not AI generated. I mean, maybe it doesn't. But thank you for the kind words, Autistic. It doesn't matter because Trump is going to draw baby drill. Yes, Trump is also going to draw baby drill. That's true. I wish Turkey do well, whatever is looking for, but it's not going to happen in this way. Yeah. BRICS could be over when Trump gets in the way. This is what's looking at. Yes, pretty much. I agree with JP. The closer we're getting to a Trump administration and Trump presidency, the more countries are getting feared and not joining BRICS because nobody wants to be on the bad side of the US, but especially nobody wants to be on the bad side of Donald Trump because they know Donald Trump is capable of showing America's power and wealth to the world if needed. So yes, everybody seemed to be, going back into line. Every country was scattered for a while because of, Biden's administration and circus freaks of hiring any random moron to work for essentially the Biden administration. But as we're getting closer to the Trump administration, Trump presidency, every country that was scattered is going back into line and realizing who's in control. I wish, yeah. Thompson, good to see you. How you doing? How would the US dollars being used when CBDCs come? Isn't every country going to use their own currency with CBDCs? Great question. How will the US dollars still be on control, when CBDCs come? Yes, we are going to be having wholesale and retail CBDCs. Every central bank around the world, every central bank will release wholesale CBDCs and retail CBDCs. Retail CBDCs will be for the retail section, hence the name. Wholesale CBDCs will be for institutions and corporations and banks and so on to do transfers domestically and internationally. Now, on the matter of how will the US dollar still be number one, because every country will have their own CBDCs and everybody will do CBDC payments. Well, because even in a CBDC world, some crypto assets will still exist and stable coins will also exist. In a CBDC world, stable coins will still exist. CBDCs are very controlled and manipulated and programmable assets. Stable coins are not programmable in any sort of way to an extent of what CBDCs are. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Every country will have two types of currencies. I said every country will have a CBDC and a stable coin. I said the CBDC is for essentially their own country's use and for international payments on the wholesale CBDCs. But I also did say that their stablecoin is going to be for the market space. It's not programmed in any sort of a way and so on. So number one stablecoin in the world will be the US dollars and will remain number one. And so on the basis of, as your question was essentially MQ that, every country has CBDC. Yes, true. Every country is going to have a CBDC, but also a stablecoin. Stablecoins will still play a massive role in a CBDC world. All facts, brother. It's always about power and control. Let's go, Ray. Facts. USDC number one. Let's go, Thompson. Or USD, in my opinion, is number one. It's going to be. After XRP is run, then XLM will eventually have its last at its mainstream currency for a CBDC. Pretty much, yes. Bitcoin Bitcoin could go to zero. Difficult for Bitcoin to go to zero. The amount of institutions holding Bitcoin, very difficult, is what I would have to say. There are too many countries holding Bitcoin. Too many ETFs right now. Unless all institutions like BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, everybody starts selling off their Bitcoins, then yes, we could potentially see Bitcoin going skyrocketing downwards. But I think even if that happens, people start in the retail section start buying Bitcoin. It's too mainstream now. Good morning, brother Miles. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? What have I missed so far? Quite a bit, funky brother, but I'll do a gist of what we talked about towards the end of the live. I can't. Some still get offended emotionally regarding how the world works. Remember, all business don't take anything personal. Facts, I agree. So all business don't ever take anything personal. Can I please have a brief breakdown of what has been said so far? Yes, towards the end of the live, I'll definitely say it to you. I'll say it to everyone because a lot of other CMF members joined a bit late as well. Towards the end, I'll give everyone a brief. I cannot wait for Trump to come in and start seeing some green candles. Let's go, funky brother. What's happening with all the plans of all the planes crashing? There has been a substantial amount of planes crashing, and it is weird. My number one question for whenever there's a plane accident, whenever I see a plane crash or a helicopter crash on the news, my number one question is always who's on that plane or who was in that helicopter, because a normal person would probably watch that news, they see a plane crash and they go, oh, it was probably an accident, or the pilot lost control, or there was a hack, or the landing gear didn't come out in time, or there was a burst in the engine. My number one question whenever I see a plane crash or a helicopter crash is who was in that plane and who was in that helicopter. That should give you the majority of why that happened. The biggest answer of why that happened, it was who was on that plane and who was on that helicopter, whatever you see crashes. Miles, you just have an amazing memory for all the things inside the corporate and crypto sector. Shelly, thank you so much for the kind words. How long before RLUSD will start to have an impact? How long before RLUSD have an impact? Great question, Shelly. Well, the first 100 days will be the most crucial for the American market space and for the world's market space. For example, South Korea and even Japan and Singapore and Hong Kong have said they're going to sit on the sidelines, wait for Trump to come into power and see what Trump does in the first 100 days. And then they're going to follow Trump's footsteps. With Trump coming into power, first 100 days, he says it's going to be the crucial time in American history. The first 100 days, Trump is going to sort out everything from America's education to rules and regulations for the crypto space, for hiring new SEC chairman, new CFTC chairman. A lot of things are going to be happening. Massive changeover is going to be happening inside the US market space in 2025 under Trump presidency. And in terms of RLUSD, how long would it have, how long before RLUSD will start to have an impact? I think pretty much the closer we get to that dismissal or settle of the Ripple case, where XRP has the stasis it needs, is that we're going to see more movements happening on RLUSD getting listed on more exchanges. Now, Ripple has said, essentially has announced that in 2025, they're going to get a lot more listings happening for RLUSD pretty much inside of all these crypto exchanges. So 2025, we should be seeing RLUSD, Ripple stablecoin, getting launched a lot more in different exchanges and being paired off with other tokens, which should bring in a lot more utility and so on, and help XRP's price run as well. So 2025, we should be starting to see that impact coming in for RLUSD. One, case getting dismissed, and two, essentially more exchange listings happening and much more easier to get licensings under a new SEC chairman is going to make things even move faster in 2025, and it should do because of the new pro SEC chairman for crypto assets. So 2025, we should be seeing that impact coming in. I'm late here today. Hello, CMF. Jonas, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? No problem. But yeah, Shelly, great question, because a lot of people do want to know about RLUSD and know, what's the time frame on that matter. Now, Hong Kong. Hong Kong's lawmakers' new proposal for adding Bitcoin to their national reserve. Hong Kong is, following America's footsteps, following Trump's footsteps on creating a Bitcoin reserve. So here it is. A Hong Kong lawmaker now proposes adding Bitcoin to the national reserve in order to boost their financial security. The country's newspapers have confirmed this coming out of Hong Kong. In a bold move that could reshape financial strategies in the region, a member of the Hong Kong Legislative Council is advocating for the Special Administration region to leverage China's one country, two systems policy by incorporating Bitcoin to its national reserves. Wu Jingxing essentially believes that this initiative could enhance financial security and position Hong Kong as a forward-thinking player inside the global market space. Now, China does use Hong Kong as a essentially playing ground for their money movements, the same way the UK uses the City of London as the playground for their money movements. In an interview with the state-owned newspaper, Wan Weipu, Xi Jinping essentially pointed to the significant market implications of Bitcoin, particularly in light of the growing popularity of the spot Bitcoin ETFs inside the United States. He highlighted the need for Hong Kong to study these developments closely to understand how such financial instruments could be essentially adapted within its own regulatory frameworks. The legislators drew comparisons with smaller nations like El Salvador and Bhutan, both of which essentially have successfully integrated Bitcoin into their national essentially strategies. He also referenced essentially certain US states that have adapted similar measures, emphasizing the potential for Bitcoin to serve as a stabilizing asset. Xi Jinping also essentially noted the US President-elect Donald Trump's proposal to classify Bitcoin as a state reserve asset that could influence traditional markets profoundly. And Xi Hong essentially urged Hong Kong's authorities to capitalize on the one country, two system framework by initially incorporating Bitcoin into the ETF space. This approach would allow the region to gauge market reactions and assess the viabilities of further expanding its Bitcoin holdings. He argued that adapting Bitcoin as a part of their national reserves could not only attract talent and investments, but also bolster the financial stability amidst the market volatility in Hong Kong. Highlighting the unique opportunities for Hong Kong, Zheng Hong explained that including Bitcoin in its reserves could mitigate disruptions resulting from the broader adoption of digital currencies inside the traditional market space. This trade move could provide Hong Kong with a competitive edge, allowing it to position itself as a leader inside of cryptocurrency space. The report indicated that Hong Kong's Financial Services and Treasury Bureau in the process of developing cryptocurrency regulations grounded in the principle of same business, same risk, same rules. Hong Kong is getting ready for rules and regulations for the market space, for the crypto market space, because America is about to come into play because of Trump. This framework aims to create a more transparent and secure environment for cryptocurrency operations in the region. He said if major economic powers take the initiative to include Bitcoin in the strict reserves, it could stabilize Bitcoin's value significantly. He also went on to say this would likely prompt other countries to follow in suit, leading to a potential decline in the value of traditional assets and a reduction in government physical reserves tied to those assets. This perspective places Bitcoin at the forefront of future financial strategies. In mid-2024, another member of the Hong Kong Essential Legislative Council, Johnny, announced plans to collaborate with various stakeholders to evaluate the feasibilities and potential benefits of incorporating Bitcoin into the regional's financial reserves. And Johnny also emphasized the increasing global awareness and acceptance of Bitcoin's positioning essentially as a critical topic in discussions surrounding digital assets and their integration into the established financial systems. As Hong Kong navigates the complexities of cryptocurrency regulations and adoptions, the legislative push for Bitcoin integration could make it a significant shift in how the region approaches financial stability and innovation. With the focus on collaboration and strict planning, Hong Kong may well position itself as the leader of the evolving landscape of digital assets. A lot of countries are trying to aim for the title of a hub for cryptocurrencies, and all that is positive news for us in 2025 and beyond, to be fairly honest. But essentially, Hong Kong is just, trying to follow America's footsteps. They don't want to get left behind. They want to create their rules and regulations and move at a much more faster pace. But also Hong Kong mentioning that America is essentially going towards crypto asset legislations and a Bitcoin reserve and so on is going to get everybody doing the exact same thing. As we said previously, it's not just that we're going to have positivity inside the crypto space because of America taking, America becoming a crypto hub. It's not just that. But if America becomes a crypto hub, then every country is going to be aiming for a crypto hub, which means every country is going to be aiming for a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency portfolio reserve asset for their such jurisdictions. Every country is going to be aiming for essentially rules and regulations for the market space. Every country, because of that, is going to get their own essentially corporations and banks getting involved inside the crypto space because it's no longer in a gray area. America is going to start something incredible inside the market space, and every other market space around the world is going to follow America's footsteps. That's why it's going to become an incredible essentially place for the crypto essentially ecosystem in 2025 and beyond. And all this is possible because of a Trump administration. It's because of Trump becoming president of the biggest market space in the world, and everybody will follow America's footsteps. The more America goes into cryptocurrencies and essentially rules and regulations and institutional money for crypto assets, the more the world's markets are going to follow America's footsteps. As the Bank of International Settlements put it once, when the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. In other words, everybody follows America's footsteps. Everybody follows America's footsteps. Even China, who hates America, follows America's footsteps, which we're going to go on tonight's live as well. Even essentially Russia, who might hate America's essentially movements, are still going to follow America's footsteps, because Russia even said the only reason they're going towards, all these regulations and policies and Bitcoin reserves they're thinking about is because of Trump. The reason why such China's thinking about now is because of Trump. Even though, there are some countries out there that hate America's control, they're still going to follow its footsteps because they don't want to get left behind. And all that is just positive news for us. It means more money, and more money entering the crypto space in 2025 and beyond. Now, moving on essentially from the news that just came out regarding essentially Hong Kong still aiming for that title no matter what, to Ondo Finance. Now, I've talked about Ondo Finance when it was first released. The day that Ondo Finance opened its doors was when I talked about it first, and I talked about it here and there when there were some announcements on their reserve assets and so on. Now, there's another crypto project that I've recently talked about by the name of PLUME, Plum or Plume, or however you want to call it. But it's not available to the retail section. Now, I only review crypto projects on this live that have institutional backing. That's all I care about. The only thing I've ever cared about is when it comes to crypto projects, do they have institutional backing? If they don't have institutional backing, then I'm not really interested in them, because that's where the money is. It's about institutional money. So every crypto project I've ever talked about on this live has been on legitimate crypto assets that have raised money through seed money, through venture capitalists, or from institutions. And Plume Network essentially is one of those projects that has raised money from seed money, from VC essentially. And there are massive VCs that are behind Plume, but it's still not available to the retail section. But they have just partnered up with Ondo Finance. So here it is. Ondo Finance and Plume Network team up to expand real-world assets use cases. Ondo Finance and Plume Network are teaming up to bring essentially Ondo's tokenized US Treasury products to more investors across the real-world asset finance ecosystem. The partnership between Ondo Finance and modular layer 1 blockchain for real-world assets Plume Network targets real-world assets. According to essentially the two platforms, the aim is to expand access to products such as Ondo's US dollar yield, USDY, across Plume Network. By combining essentially Ondo's expertise in treasuries backed yield coins, Plume's essential real-world assets tailored infrastructure, the two projects can simplify onboarding and capital integrations. Native issuance of Ondo's USDY on Plume is a step in that direction essentially. The flagship of Ondo Finance project, USDY, is currently the fourth largest tokenized US Treasury products, and with over $450 million in value across 8 blockchains. Hashnode's short duration, essentially yield coins, BlackRock's Build, and Franklin Templeton's on-chain US government money fund have their current total values locked at $1.8 billion, $621 million, and $554 million per data. Launching USDY on Plume Network will see Ondo bring the 4.65% APY to the platform's users. It also promises to expand access to the yield essentially coins to global individual and institutional investors. However, Ondo does not offer this product to the US investors for the time being, and the collaboration does not just offer an opportunity for expansion of real-world asset use cases, but also contributes to the overall growth of DeFi. Kate Wheeler, Vice President of Partnerships at Ondo Finance, noted in their statements that the partnership will be a boon for the essential whole industry, and Plume is creating a network effects of opportunities for real-world asset issuance, and having a composable yield-bearing asset to power its economy is a boon for both the asset utility and the ecosystem as a whole, Wheeler said. The Plume Network team has recently sealed several key partnerships and integrations, including, for example, if you want to know who Plume Network works with, they work with Google Cloud, they work with Cheetah Capital, an on-chain private essentially credit platform, Credible, and Plume has raised so far, they have raised from institutions $20 million in a Series A round backed by essentially Brave and Howard Digital, Howard essentially Ventures, and Galaxy Ventures. These are all companies that are backing Plume, and they have raised essentially $20 million. If you want to go check it out, go check it out. But they're not essentially available to the retail section for the time being. They have been available to the retail section for a while because they're still in their development modes. But it's something, if you want to keep under your notes, that one day when they do open their doors, you'll be able to be the first one. And if you want to go for it, read first, understand what it does. And, if you like their partnerships and contracts in place and the licenses in place, and if you're somebody that really likes real world assets, then go and check it out. But yeah, I never share any sort of crypto projects that don't have institutional money whatsoever, or institutional contracts, because that's all that matters to me. Institutional money, institutional contracts means big money later on, essentially. New mug, Miles. I like it. Thank you so much, Shelly. Yep, new mug. It's got the CoinMove logo on it as well. Let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the next news, which is regarding the IRS in terms of crypto assets. Also, to keep that in mind as well, regarding real-world assets, I've always said this, and I'll say it again. Regarding real-world assets, don't ever go for the real-world asset project itself. Go for the underlying assets. So banks and institutions will offer real-world assets the more we go into 2025, 2036, and 2027 and beyond. The more we go, towards next year and so on, we're going to get a lot more real-world assets projects happening. We're going to get Hilton Hotel doing essentially buying land and doing real-world asset projects for people to get involved in. We're going to see a lot of corporations get involved inside real-world asset and start doing projects and saying to the retail section, hey, get involved inside this retail, essentially get involved in this inside of this real-world asset project. We're going to be building this massive hotel. You can have a piece of this massive hotel. In reality, it's worthless. If you want to make money from real-world assets, go for the underlying asset itself, not for the project. So the only reason banks and institutions like the idea of real-world assets and why they're so excited about real-world assets is because it's another way for the banks to squeeze money out of the retail section. And it's another way for the institutions to squeeze money out of the retail section. Because, if a massive mega corporation wants to buy a piece of land and build essentially massive building on it or a massive hotel on it or so on, they would have to go to the bank and borrow against some of their assets and essentially start building this massive hotel, and then they're working on a time frame which they have to pay back the money to the bank. There's all this paperwork and headache for these mega corporations. But now on the real world assets, mega corporations will just buy a piece of land and say to the public section, the retail section, we're going to build this massive hotel. If everybody wants to jump in and buy a piece of the pie, you can. But it's because they don't want to because they don't have to go to the banks anymore to borrow money. They could just get your money. And in return, what do you get for helping them build this brand new shiny building? You get nothing. For example, the Hilton Hotel, essentially in El Salvador, they're doing this whole reserve, essentially they're doing this whole real world asset, essentially building. And they're building a Hilton Hotel, and everybody can get involved inside the retail section inside of this project. And Hilton Hotel, in return, if you spend $1,000, they'll give you a few drinks at the bar. When the Hilton Hotel is built, they'll give you a few drinks at the bar because you spent $1,000 on that real world asset project. And if you spend $5,000 and above, you get a few nights stay at the Hilton Hotel. So you're paying a few $1,000s for a few drinks at the bar when that hotel is built. In reality, what's actually going to happen is the mega corporation that built that Hilton Hotel is going to use that big shiny building to go to the bank and borrow against it and build another building. So all they're doing essentially is squeezing money out of the retail section. To benefit from real world assets is not by falling for the trap that the corporations are setting for you. Real world assets for the retail section is like that cartoon where essentially Tom and Jerry, everybody's seen the cartoon Tom and Jerry. It's the simplest reference I can give to people. When Tom essentially puts a piece of cheese and a stick and a cardboard on top, and he pulls the string for Jerry to go inside the box. It's basically what it is. That's what the corporate section is doing when it comes to real world assets to the retail section. They're putting a piece of cheese in the middle, a stick, a line, essentially a string, and a cardboard essentially on top. And they're waiting for the retail section to go inside and get trapped, essentially. It's a rat trap, basically, for the retail section. If you want to benefit from real world assets, don't fall for the corporation's tricks of joining into their real world asset platform, essentially, and helping them build this massive brand new building for them to then go and essentially, borrow against them, build another building and profit even more. Because who's really profiting, you or them? They are, because they don't have to go to the bank and work in a time frame to build a building. They could just get the money from you and say real world asset projects. How you benefit from real world assets is by going for the underlying asset itself. You want to play smart, go for the underlying asset. So if the bank is building, for example, on the XRP ledger, for example, then going for XRP's token will bring you more of a profit than going for the project itself, because it's going to bring eyes on the XRP ledger. If the bank, for example, if a mega corporation is building on the AVAX chain, their real world asset project, going for AVAX's token will bring you more profits in the long term than going for the project itself. Going for the underlying asset will bring you more money than going for the real world asset project itself. Real world asset projects are only beneficial for corporations, because that's the only benefit, essentially, because they have to borrow for money from banks to build, but now they don't have to. They can use your money and get a brand new shiny building while you get a few drinks at the bar or a few nights stay at the hotel. Waste of money. So go for the underlying asset whenever you see a real world essentially asset project. If they say, JP Morgan comes out and says, we're building a new bank, new building, everybody get involved in real world asset, and they're doing it, for example, on the AVAX chain, go for the AVAX token rather than the JP building bank, because JP Morgan is going to benefit from that brand new building, shiny building, but you're not going to be benefiting from it. You'll benefit more if you go for the underlying asset, for example, building on AVAX, because it's going to bring eyes on the AVAX chain. So I have indirect value on AVAX's price point, and direct value depending on how much AVAX can be bought for that project. Yeah, don't fall for the tricks that the bankers and the corporations do on people. There was a study test on, essentially why corporations like real world assets. Banks and corporations were excited. Essentially they were happy. Banks and corporations were happy with cross-border payments, cheaper payments, faster payments, and so on. They were very happy, but they got extremely excited. Corporations especially got extremely excited about real world assets, because that's how they can squeeze money out of the retail section, and you will own nothing and be happy. Remember that good old saying from the World Economic Forum from Charles Schwab? He came out and said, by 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. Well, if you're only going to be owning essentially real world asset projects, yes, in technicality, you're going to be owning nothing, but somehow you're going to be happy. I don't know how, but obviously, they know how to sell it. Yeah, if you own real world asset projects, yeah, you're definitely going to own nothing. And somehow you're going to be happy. If you want to be happy, go for the underlying asset. That's how you're going to be happy. Don't go for the project itself. Don't fall for the corporation's tricks. Now, and I did say, the study test that was done, the number one reason why corporations love the idea of real world assets, the number one reason was it's a new avenue stream. The number one reason for essentially corporations, it wasn't that it's going to be more transparent because everything is on the blockchain. It wasn't because it was going to be faster and cheaper in terms of payments or moving around assets. No. The number one reasoning for corporations, according to one study test, was it's a new avenue stream. And guess where that new avenue stream is coming from? The retail section. The retail section of the new avenue stream for the mega corporations to build their brand new buildings and shiny new houses, properties, and so on. And then they get a brand new building and you get nothing. Now, A16Z. So go for the underlying asset. A16 essentially Z is joins in the legal fight against the Treasury and IRS, is pretty much what we're going to talk about next. Now, the IRS inside the US has came up with some demanding unnormal rules and regulations that they want to, essentially bring in some strict regulations for taxation of crypto assets and so on. And this is pretty much the Trump administration's, this is pretty much the Biden's administration's last attempt to stifle and anger the crypto space before they exit the doors. So this is the Biden administration's circus freaks, and one last time trying to stifle the crypto space, but the crypto space is not having it in any sort of a way. And a lot of CEOs and the Blockchain Association inside the US is coming out and basically saying we're going to sue the IRS because they're taking it too far now. So here it is. A16Z joins the legal fight against the Treasury and IRS over DeFi rules and regulations. Michelle, essentially head of regulations at Anderson Howard's blockchain arm, A16Z Crypto, has voiced strong oppositions to the US Treasury and IRS newly issued broker reporting rules. In an official statement, she claims that it jeopardizes the future of decentralized finance and innovation inside the United States. In December 30th tweet, essentially, Michelle outlined A16Z's support for the lawsuit filed by the DeFi Education Fund and the Blockchain Association and the Texas Blockchain Council against the IRS. This lawsuit aims to block regulations stemming from the Infrastructure Invest and Jobs Act, which seeks to expand essentially the definition of brokers in a way that could essentially include DeFi and trading front ends. And these platforms, which allow users to interact with essentially decentralized protocols, do not directly essentially facilitate transactions, a distinction highlighted in the lawsuit. The groups argue that the rule imposed under such undue burdens on DeFi entities and violates the Administrative Procedure Acts, the APA essentially, and exceeds the Treasury statutory authorities. Now, Michelle described the rulemaking process as a rushed midnight decision that undermines DeFi's potential to deliver accessible, efficient, and consumer-focused financial services. It does seem like the new regulations that are coming out of the IRS seemed a bit rushed. The reason why they seem a bit rushed is because the Biden administration has been pushed out the door. Good thing for that's happening. She further stated that the broader implications of the rule, warning that it could stifle innovation and drive DeFi operations offshore. A16Z's crypto essentially even went on to retreat that it would defend the sector through multiple avenues, including legal challenges and legislative advocacies with Congress and incoming executive branch. Michelle reassured developers that the industry attorneys are working to protect this technology, stating that these efforts are critical to preserving the transformative potential of decentralized financial systems. We believe this final rule exceeds Treasury statutory authorities and violates the Administrative Procedure Acts of APA and is unconstitutional. DeFi builders should feel confident that industry attorneys are working hard to protect this technology, and we will keep fighting on all fronts in the courts and with the help of Congress and the incoming executive branch. Basically, the IRS wants to control the DeFi space so much that the DeFi space won't be able to breathe. So the Blockchain Association, the Texas essentially Blockchain Fund, and a few other establishments in the US are suing the IRS. And A16Z, a mega corporation, has came out and said, we will back all of these blockchain companies suing the IRS, even when it comes to legal, as essentially backing them with fundings for the lawyers and so on. Jake, a prominent essentially this stance has been echoed by other prominent figures inside the crypto space, and Uniswap's founder Heyman Adams, for one, criticized the rule's timing and potential impact while suggesting that it represents a deliberate attempt to hinder DeFi's innovation. He expressed confidence in legal and legislative challenges to overturn the rule as well. And meanwhile, Uniswap's CLO Catherine also said that there is no good reason for the IRS's new rule of misclassifying DeFi technology as brokers. The executive added, it races past the plain limits set by Congress. It will produce far more pointless paperwork than the IRS can handle. It contradicts itself throughout the tech and imposes a burden that could cripple DeFi entirely. Does this sound familiar to you? The IRS is trying to stifle the crypto space by calling the DeFi space a bunch of brokers. Try to bring in some regulations. Does it sound familiar to you? Gary Gensler calling the crypto space securities. You see, Gary Gensler is obviously resigning and, walking out the door January 20th. But this is pretty much the Biden administration's of circus freaks, one last attempt to stifle the crypto space. Because while the crypto space was going back and forward, we're not securities, Gary Gensler saying, yes, you are securities. And it was just back and forward attempts of securities, no securities, securities, no securities. Well, the IRS is trying to cause that similar situation where they're calling the DeFi space brokers, and the DeFi space saying we're not brokers, and it's just going to go back and forward. Even when they're walking out the door, even when the Biden administration is walking out the door, the amount of damage the Biden administration has done to the American economy and to the world's economy and to the energy prices, to the grocery prices, to the payments on your houses, your loans, your mortgages, every issue you've ever had in your life for the past 4 years, depending on whatever country you're living in. You could be living in the EU, you could be living in the UK, you could be living in America, Canada, Latin American countries, any country you possibly have, you're essentially living in right now. If you were impacted by higher energy prices, if you're paying higher prices on your gas and your electrics, if you're paying higher prices essentially on your petrol, if you're paying higher prices on your groceries, your mortgage, your loans, blame it on the Biden administration. Because people will say, well, how's that Biden's fault? Or how's that the Biden administration's fault? Because they're the ones that caused the Ukraine and essentially Russia war. The Ukraine and Russia war impacted what? Our gas prices, our petrol prices, our food prices. That was just one incident. They've tried everything to stifle us in any market space. If you've honestly, the amount of damage, and that was just one, the amount of damage that the Biden administration has done to the world is ridiculous. And there are still some people till this day that will go, Biden did a great job. Biden administration did a great job. What great job? Are you blind or dumb or just playing dumb? Because there's no other way around it. If you supported and you change your opinions, now you're on Trump, good. But if you support the Biden administration, you are either blind or dumb or playing dumb. There's no other way around it. Nobody that supports the Biden administration is considered to be intelligent. And the word intelligence just cannot be applied in the same sentence as the Biden administration. The worst traitors of the American history will go down as the Biden administration and Biden himself. And honestly, this sounds so familiar. Gary Gensler calling the crypto space securities for 4 years. Gary Gensler called the crypto space securities for 4 years. We've been battling Gary Gensler, going back and forward. No, we're not securities. Gary Gensler saying, yes, you are securities. Gary Gensler saying he doesn't care what the judge says. Crypto space is securities no matter what. It's the same story that's being applied by the IRS. Now saying the DeFi space is a bunch of brokers. DeFi space saying we're not brokers. You can't file us as brokers. Similar story. It races past the plain limits set by Congress. It will produce far more pointless paperwork than the IRS can handle. It contradicts itself throughout on the tech, and it imposes a burden that could cripple DeFi. Also, we can conduct unnecessary mass surveillance on crypto transactions by everyday Americans. DeFi is the antidote to debanking. The last thing we can afford to do is try to choke out the DeFi space. This is pretty much honestly, this is pretty much the Biden administration's last hooray at trying to stifle the world in crypto. But the good thing is Trump's coming into power, and if the IRS doesn't get into line, then that's not going to really work out well for the IRS, is it? That's what I love about Trump, honestly, that he comes in at such a powerful status where everybody gets in line. The world tells you, the world news, CNBC, MSN, and all these news channels will tell you everybody laughs at Trump. Nobody laughs at Trump. The only people that laugh at Trump are the retail section that hate Trump. While the world leaders, the SEC chairmen, the CFTC chairmen, the SEC commissioners, the CFTC commissioners, the IRS, the FDIC chairmen, the banks, the mega corporations all around the world, the leaders of the world fear Trump. Now, these leaders can be presidents or prime ministers or CEOs or co-founders or executive board members or chairmen or commissioners. They fear Trump. While, honestly, the news will tell you, the world is laughing at Trump. The only people that are laughing at Trump are broke people, people who don't understand how the world operates. Those are only the people that are laughing at Trump. Because the leaders of the world fear Trump. They're not laughing at him, they fear him. And that's a good thing. There are also people from CNBC, for example. CNBC, there are those people who are against Trump on CNBC. Now they're coming out and saying, well, Trump is actually not a bad person, because they're fearing for their jobs. Yeah, all those years of feeding the public BS news about Trump, trying to essentially obliterate any status Trump has, all those years, those news channels were trying to do that to Trump. Now every single one of them is crawling back up their own, Now, on the topic of essentially rules and regulations and Trump, Here it is. China. Remember when I said even China is going to get on board? They have no choice but to get involved. China's People's Bank of the People's Bank of China, the Central Bank of China, doubles down on crypto in bold financial stability reports. I told you, not even China wants to get left behind from the American market space. When Trump comes to power, rules and regulations, first 100 days, rules and regulations, no more gray areas, banks, institutional money enter the market space, more ETFs, all positive towards crypto, and America becomes a capital hub. The world market will follow its footsteps. If the world market follows America's footsteps and follows Trump's footsteps, that means more money will be entering the crypto space from every jurisdiction around the world. I said to you, even China doesn't want to get left behind. The same country that banned crypto, banned Bitcoin mining, and banned everything is thinking about, well, we're going to unban pretty much everything and enter the crypto space because we don't want to get left behind either. So the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, appears to have picked a renowned interest in crypto activities in the region. This interest was enough for the bank to devote a section of its annual financial stability report for 2024 ending. This came up today, by the way. This has prompted the bank's financial stability board to suggest ways of regulating crypto-related activities. So think about regulating cryptocurrencies now. No more, just banning them completely out and never looking into it. But now they're thinking about regulating the crypto space. This comes from the Central Bank of China. Notably, mainland China has banned cryptocurrency trading due to cybercrimes related to crypto assets. However, Hong Kong has flung its doors open to crypto firms, and Hong Kong, despite being an essentially administrative region of China, has gone ahead to launch a crypto license system for crypto platforms. And since its launch in June, essentially licensed crypto exchanges have established and essentially offer retail trading services. In a significant development, essentially, Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commissions, SFC, recently granted licenses to 4 new exchanges. They include essentially HK BitEX, and essentially DFX Labs and EX.io. The regulatory approval further bolsters the region's position as a global Asian crypto hub. Market observers lauded the developments as gaining a license under Hong Kong's crypto guidelines requires rigorous two-phase evolution. The government upholds strict regulatory standards as it continues to drive to make Hong Kong to essentially a crypto powerhouse. The Central Bank of China is thinking about essentially making Hong Kong a powerhouse of cryptocurrencies, but also they're thinking about bringing regulations for crypto assets in China. Again, coming from the Central Bank of China in their reports ending of this year. Despite these strict processes, the People's Bank of China, their central bank, highlighted that Hong Kong is actively exploring crypto licensing in its financial stability report. And it also emphasized Hong Kong's requirements of some major financial institutions like HSBC Bank, and Standard Chartered Bank. These institutions have been mandated to include crypto transactions in their routine customer supervisions. The People's Bank of China's reports noted that cryptocurrencies might pose a risk in some economies as they continue to gain traction, notably in their application for payments and essentially retail investments. This suggests that the Chinese central bank might have reservations about developments in crypto. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's Legislative Council recently commenced debates on the proposed stablecoin bills, and the bill, which will pass through 3 readings, has already scaled the first readings in the Legislative Council. It still has 2 more readings, essentially involving intensive debates and scrutiny before being enacted into law. The bill has several components structured to protect consumers and address all market participants, and some experts say it mirrors Europe's essential markets and crypto assets and MiCA regulations. So that is a perspective coming in from China's central bank. It's not only a perspective, but it's highlighted on their bank's reports for the ending of 2024, where China is talking about rules and regulations for the crypto space. China literally went from banning Bitcoin and banning crypto to, however, now going into, we're going to do regulations about crypto assets. Because why do you think? They don't want to get left behind from the American market space. The world's markets are going to be joining the crypto space, the world's markets, because of Trump. Because of Trump, the entire world is going to join the crypto space because of Trump. So thank God Trump won. I've always said this and I'll say it again. Thank God Trump won. Now, MicroStrategy is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about MicroStrategy, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. I read everybody's comments one by one. I shout out your name as well. And I give everybody short, sweet, simple answers to get through everyone. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. And then we go straight into the next news, which is MicroStrategy news, MicroSailor, MSTR. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. I've been asleep all evening. Sorry for being late. New from Scott. Yeah, definitely. Hello, CMF on YouTube. I could not find our group on X. Miles, can you put Scott? Good to see you. How you doing? Miles, can you put the project in Telegram and also the ones you said are coming in 2025? Yes, Shark. I'll put them in the Telegram group. By the way, if you haven't joined, if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. I'm the host, as I am every single night, Monday to Friday. But if you haven't joined, join the Telegram group of this live as well, and join the X communities page of this live as well. Everything I do is completely free of source. I don't charge a single penny. I've never charged a single penny. I've been doing this for years. I only care about just helping people, to be fairly honest. No agenda whatsoever. If I had an agenda, you would have known it by now. Not me essentially helping people for years completely for free. Tom and Jerry, perfect. The lol. Yes, definitely, JP. The equation I gave. Good evening, Jason. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening. My account is suspended. And I can't respond or take any action on X anymore. Else experience? Not me. I'll be honest. The UK Prime Minister used Christmas to push through a grocery tax. They just take. I'm also glad I'm into crypto for financial freedom. Let's go, Joe. Facts. Green candles, waiting. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. A16Z or AI16Z or A16Z? A16Z, the second one. The IRS are a disaster. Never mind putting these rules in. Hello, CMF. I hope that you're happy and prosperous 2025. Let's go, Scott. I am neither, Miles. I'm just going to support Trump. Fair enough. Trump, thank God Trump won. Crypto Miles. Let's go, Davey. Let's go, the Ray. Also, a reminder, join the CMF Telegram, like and share the live for all for free, all love. Facts. Like, and if you're not following me already, follow me during this live. If you watch us on X, follow me on X. If you watch us live on YouTube, follow me on YouTube. Now, MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy plans a $2 billion Bitcoin buy-in after growing its $42 billion crypto holdings. MicroStrategy is getting essentially ready to purchase another $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. They have made the purchase today as well, roughly about $200 million of Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy executive chairman, has hinted at a Bitcoin purchase worth $2 billion following 8 weeks of consistent acquisitions. The organization holds essentially 4,444 of essentially valued at BTC, roughly about $42.15 billion, and has recorded over a 52% all-time high return on its investments, essentially according to from data. The Bitcoin plan features a disciplined dollar cost averaging approach that ensures a steady accumulation regardless of the value fluctuations in its total purchases, represented by green dots on the chart, showcases consistent buying patterns, while the blue line illustrates Bitcoin's volatility market price. It is true, Michael Saylor said he doesn't care what the price of Bitcoin is, he's going to buy it no matter what. And he doesn't make small purchases, he makes hundreds of millions of dollars of essentially terms of purchase, or in some cases $1 billion. The company has achieved an impressive $14.6 billion of profits since it began purchasing Bitcoin, with its average acquisition price remaining below the current market price. This data demonstrates the success of MicroStrategy's tactics despite Bitcoin's inherent volatility and ensuring its position as a leading corporate hedge fund in virtual assets. MicroStrategy's holdings, now standing at over essentially 444,000 essentially BTC, indicates that the company has maintained confidence in Bitcoin's long-term essentially value, and furthermore, its continued acquisition suggesting a clear suggestion to capitalize future price increases. The CEO referenced the blue lines in his tweets, which essentially could signify the challenges of Bitcoin's price swings. However, the consistent purchasing trend indicates MicroStrategy's determination to weather volatility in favor of positive futures. The company's buying spree reflects its broader essential philosophy of treating Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and a store of value by strictly acquiring Bitcoin. It sets a strong example for other corporations considering crypto investments, and the firm's $42 billion of Bitcoin investments is shaping the market sentiments and essentially influencing institutional adoption, and a potential 2 billion buy-in could send ripples across the market space, potentially driving the token's price higher and encouraging other big wigs, essentially big wins to follow suit. The visible green purchase points on the chart essentially shows MicroStrategy's careful timing in market acquisitions during market corrections, and this disciplined approach highlights the growing acceptance of Bitcoin among institutional investors as a reliable long-term asset. And could MicroStrategy's bold essential strategy inspire essentially other companies to adapt Bitcoin at such scales? The answer may define Bitcoin's future trajectory in global market spaces. Look, MicroStrategy is not going to be slowing down their Bitcoin purchases by any time soon, by the looks of it. I mean, the man did say even if Bitcoin is sitting at $1 million, he's still buying Bitcoin. He couldn't care less. I do believe he will do that. I'll be fairly honest. He said he'd be buying Bitcoin no matter what, and he has shown that, to be fair honest. He's making $100 million purchases of Bitcoin, $200 million, $300 million, $400 million, $900 million of Bitcoin purchases. He does not care what price he's sitting at. He's going for it head first. When you have people like this inside a market space buying an asset like Bitcoin, no matter what the price is, holding it for a 5-year projection minimum, that's the reason why you'll never see Bitcoin dropping down to $20,000, for example. It's never going to happen when you have people like MicroStrategy or MicroStrategy, in other words, buying that amount of Bitcoin, no matter what the price is. As long as there are people like him, we're never going to see Bitcoin going to $20,000. Now, because of people like Michael Saylor, for example, who are just buying Bitcoin no matter what, a lot of people inside the institutional essentially space has followed MicroStrategy's footsteps. For example, here's one of them. Genius Group increases its Bitcoin holdings by 50% to 30 million. Now, they might not be on the MicroStrategy level of buying $100 million of Bitcoin at a time, but they're buying small amounts. They're not the only one that are following MicroStrategy's footsteps. So here it is. Genius Group, another essential corporation, has added essentially to its Bitcoin holdings with a significant purchase that was announced today. The company disclosed it acquired an additional essentially Bitcoin worth up to $10 million to bring its Bitcoin treasury to around 319.4 Bitcoins, worth $30 million. Genius brought the Bitcoin at an average price of $93,919 per Bitcoin. The publicly traded company's announcement came as MicroStrategy led the latest Bitcoin buying spree, with its total holdings hitting 446,400 BTCs. Notably, Genius Group has hit the $30 million BTC haul within 6 weeks of announcing its Bitcoin strategy, and the AI-powered company that trades on the New York Stock Exchange began its buying essentially on November 12, scooping out Bitcoin worth $10 million. Genius has since consistently snapped up a chunk of the flagship's digital asset, with 194 Bitcoins worth essentially $18 million added on December 9th as well. The average price essentially they're going for Bitcoin was around $92,720 per Bitcoin, and Genius Group's Bitcoin first strategy targets putting at least 90% of its reserves in the benchmark cryptocurrency. The initial investment is targeted at $120 million, which the company says it will currently do 25% into after the latest purchase price. And Genius Group's chief executive officer Roger Hamilton said this: "It has been less than 2 months since we've launched our Bitcoin treasury strategy. We have been buying Bitcoins consistently and are pleased to be ahead of our internal schedule to reach our initial target of 1,000 Bitcoins in our treasury." Companies are not slowing down in any sort of a way when it comes to Bitcoin purchases. When it comes to Bitcoin purchases, to be fairly honest, at all. They're all following MicroStrategy's footsteps. There was one company in particular that followed MicroStrategy's footsteps, but they did a Bitcoin and XRP reserve. That was great to see as well. We're going to see a lot of that happening, more of that happening essentially. Now, essentially moving on to crypto represents an international capitalism. A perspective coming from Belgium on blockchain, China, and the internet. So Belgium essentially is the former general partner of A16Z and the CTO of Coinbase. So here it is. Here's his perspective. Belgium did an interview. He sits at a very high position inside the blockchain space, inside the VC world, such a venture capitalist. And he did an interview today with his perspectives on the crypto space for an international market space moving forward. So here is his perspective. Renowned tech visionary Belgium, former general partner of Anderson Howards and CTO of Coinbase, explains why politicians are wrong about the internet, which evolved into a global field for collaborations and competition simultaneously. No political movement, be it socialist or nationalist, managed to shape a proper framework to deal with the internet since all the ideas emerged in different tech contexts. Silicon Valley legend Bauji opinions that modern ideologies are getting online wrong since they emerged when there was land but no cloud. The internet is globally integrated market and everyone really is in competition and collaboration with everyone else. After all, your followers are essentially global, your customers are global, your supply chain is global, and your contractors are global when you're on the internet. Meanwhile, the internet already established more powerful social connections than ideologies and even nation states did. Digital social networks represent more influential design of human interaction compared to those limited by state borders. As such, only China and cryptocurrencies represents textbook examples of that right perception of the internet's impact on opportunities. There are, however, two essentially factions who essentially take the internet seriously, China and crypto. Because they have the great firewall on the blockchain, essentially, respectfully, these are very different types of essential, and they are both treat the digital realm as something to be defended, wielded off, and protected. The two represent different approaches to leverage this knowledge. China, with its firewall, targets vertical integrations of digital society by making its essentially by making its citizens use only Chinese apps and restricting access to global websites. And by contrast, the cryptocurrency segment addresses making software so secure that it can run in an open and on every computer in the world. As such, Beijing and essentially Beijing said that China represents a nationalist socialism, while crypto represents an international capitalism. And Beijing essentially claimed that both Bitcoin and AI and so on crypto assets have already entered vertical phase of their adoption curves. To illustrate this take, he shared the charts of performance results by essentially OpenAI's large language models and the net of assets under management of ETFs on spot Bitcoin US. Commenting on his post, former essentially CEO Allen, who also noted that Bitcoin might be growing faster than the internet in terms of massive adoption trajectories. According to his estimations, we are somewhere in the 1999 based on the level of global adoption of Bitcoin as technology and assets. Yes, we are definitely on the earlier days, essentially on inside the crypto space, definitely on the earlier days. But because we're just about to go, well, just in perspective, in terms of retail section, yes, we do have a substantial amount of retail section inside the crypto space. But in terms of earlier days, institutional space, yeah, we're definitely in the early days, believe it or not, because we still don't have rules and regulations, which we're about to get in 2025. A lot of things are going to be changing in that field. Essentially, the world is changing right before your eyes. And he's not the only CEO or executive board member or chairman who's came out and said that, essentially, moving forward, we're going to be moving into this exceptional market space. Now, moving away from his opinion to this, 80% of Japanese banks are set to adapt Ripple's XRP by 2025. Here it is. Japan is on the verge of a significant banking transformation, and so is the rest of the world, to be fairly honest, as almost 80% of the country's banks are looking forward to adapting XRP into their systems in 2025. This move could have substantial implications for cross-border payments, remittances, and the broader adoption of blockchain technology in finance. This potential shift is supported by statements from key figures inside the Japanese financial sector. This isn't just some online random opinion from a crypto influencer or so on. This is an opinion from essentially the CEO of the SBI Group, a major financial services firm, has expressed strong support for XRP and its potential for growth in the international remittances. Kito, essentially the CEO of SBI, noted that the increasing adoption of RippleNet and the use of XRP for cross-border transactions, emphasizing the importance of real demand. For the cryptocurrency's long-term success, he contrasted his view with his assessments of Bitcoin, suggesting it lacks inherent value. Japanese banks could streamline cross-border transactions, making them faster and more cost-effective. These developments suggest a growing confidence in XRP's utility within the Japanese financial system. Given its large essential expertise and migrant essential worker population who frequently send remittances to international payments, the integration of XRP would benefit them a lot. Furthermore, widespread adoption in Japan, one of the world's largest economies, could serve as a model for other countries and financial institutions. Western countries have also begun to adapt to Bitcoin and started to strengthen their regulations for crypto assets. This could lead to an increased institutional investment in XRP the more regulations we have, and greater mainstream acceptance of blockchain-based financial solutions. The potential for reduced remittance costs could also contribute to greater financial inclusion globally. Looking ahead, Ripple is expected to continue expanding its on-demand liquidity network, essentially, which utilizes XRP for cross-border payments. This expansion could further solidify XRP's position as a key player inside the future of global finance, especially if other countries follow Japan's lead. While the exact percentage of banks adapting XRP by 2025 remains to be seen, the current trajectory points towards a significant shift in Japan's financial sector and potentially the global financial system. If you're somebody that's inside the crypto space and you are holding XRP, amazing. If you're somebody inside the crypto space that's not holding XRP, you're going to get left behind. Look, I've said this and I'll say it again. The number one asset eventually will be XRP. It's going to be. It's bound to be. It has the most amount of contracts in place with banks and institutions. It has the most amount of licensings in place outside the US market space. It's dominating pretty much every country outside the US. The price might not show that, but the contracts do. If you're somebody that's trying to chase the price, then move on. But if you're somebody that's trying to look for wealth, then stay in the XRP space. There's 24,000 crypto projects. Only one does CBDCs. The entire world is about to go towards CBDCs. Not presidents, not MPs, not politicians. Nobody's going to be able to stop CBDCs. And the world is going to be in CBDCs. 98% of centralized banks are CBDCs. And XRP plays a crucial role in that part of retail CBDCs and wholesale CBDCs. They have the most amount of banks in place. They have the most amount of contracts with banks and institutions. They have the most amount of licenses in place. They're listed pretty much on any centralized bank. We've even had India's centralized bank coming out and talking about XRP. The Bank of England's talked about it as well. There's so many banks around the world, central banks, public banks, private banks, so many institutions. So much has been going on inside the XRP space. But some people chase price and some people chase financial freedom. If you're looking for a quick buck, XRP isn't it. But if you're looking for financial freedom, complete financial freedom, then XRP is the chosen project, in my opinion, based on what I've read, based on the contracts I've read, based on PDF documentations that I've read. And in 2025, we're going to be finally seeing XRP's movements because the case will either get dismissed or settled with a new SEC chairman. We're going to get rules and regulations. XRP is going to be the only one, essentially. XRP is going to be the only one that has regulatory clarity alongside Bitcoin. We're going to get rules and regulations. Rules and regulations equals to what? Banks and institutions no longer operate in gray areas. And if banks and institutions are no longer operating gray areas, it means that they can enter with their money to the table. And which crypto project benefits the most with rules and regulations and corporations coming inside the field and banks coming inside the field? XRP. XRP's entire client base is based on banks and institutions. So regulations means there's so much that's going to be happening in 2025. A lot of projects are going to do exceptionally well in 2025 under Trump presidency. First 100 days will be crucial. But moving forward, those projects will still continue doing well. The more we go into regulations, the more we're going to essentially go into adoption. The more we go into adoption, the faster we're going to reach those price targets. So if you haven't looked into XRP, look into it. If you're holding XRP, amazing to you. If you're not holding XRP because your favorite crypto influencer told you XRP is never going to happen or XRP is going to go to zero, yeah. These were the same people that said XRP will never pass $1 and that XRP is a stable coin, that XRP is a meme coin. Well, as far as we know, the charts don't lie. XRP is past $1. XRP is not a stable coin. XRP is going to rule the world. And all good things must come to an end, which they have now. So this was the endings of tonight's live, of the CMF live. This was episode 302. Right now you're watching episode 302 of the CMF live, which is an incredible one, episode 302 right now. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, this was the CMF live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles, and I'm the host essentially of this live, Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. If you're not following me on X. If you watch this on X, retweet, comment, share, and follow me on X. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you already haven't, drop a comment, drop a like. I don't ask, everything I provide is completely free of source. I provide this live every night, pretty much Monday to Friday. We have a free, essentially, community inside the Telegram space, called Crypto Miles Family, which anybody's more than welcome to join, also free. We have an X communities page, also free. Everything I provide is completely free of source, and everybody can always message me, contact me, phone me, or whatever. I don't charge a single penny whatsoever. The only thing I ask in return for all the free sources that I do provide, everything that I do provide is completely free of source. The only thing that I ask in return is for you to at least, comment on my post, drop a like, drop a share, drop a retweet, follow and subscribe. That's the only thing I've ever asked since day one throughout the years that I've been doing this inside the crypto space. The only thing I ask essentially instead is just for you to like, comment, share, subscribe, retweet, and drop a comment outside live. That's all I'm asking in return. So do that if you already haven't. And also, just to let everybody know, the live show might, so tomorrow, because it is New Year's in the UK, tomorrow there might be no live show because it's the New Year's, and the day after probably not as well, but it will continue afterwards. So I'm going to let everybody know inside the Telegram group and inside the Telegram group of this live, and everybody know on X that's following me what's going to be happening. So we might be off on the live show for tomorrow because it is New Year's, because I might be standing with my family. So I don't know for now, but I'll let everybody know inside the Telegram group that I might be taking 1 day off or 2 days off for the New Year's thing. 1 day for essentially, New Year's, and 1 day for recovery, because I am slightly ill as well. But I'll let everybody know on X, on the Telegram group as well. But after those 1 day or 2 day off, the live show will continue as usual, normal days off. Monday to Friday, normal days off. After we pass New Year's and so on, normal days off. The live show will be continuing Monday to Friday every day, no matter what. But I might be taking 1 or 2 days off. Tomorrow I'm going to be off, but I might take 1 day or 2 days. I'll let everybody know on Telegram, essentially in the CMF, and I'll let everybody know on X if it's going to be 1 day or 2 days, but we'll see. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be off. So CMF, I'll definitely be tweeting out, messaging all as well regarding Happy New Year's as well. But yeah, this was the CMF live, stands for Crypto Miles Family. Disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. That's the type of news I talk about on this live every single night, Monday to Friday. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Miles and CMF. No problem, Mike. Let's go. Have a wonderful New Year's, Miles and CMF. Mickey, you too have a wonderful New Year's as well. Great live, essentially. Great live, as usual, Miles. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, good night. See you tomorrow. See you in a few days. Outstanding, much needed live tonight, brother. From another mother. Take care, Miles and family. Let's go, Ray. See you next year. See you next year, Mike. Ray, see you next year as well. Jason, see you next year as well. Night, Miles, and all the best. Have an amazing New Year's. YouTube, Pablo, as well. See you next year. Thanks. Happy New Year's, Shakira. See you next year as well. Happy New Year's. Thanks, Miles, and Happy New Year's to everyone. Let's go, Stormy. Happy New Year's to you as well. Thanks, Legend. Happy New Year's, Miles, and CMF. Shelly, Happy New Year's to you as well. Thanks for some kind words. Great show, Miles. Thanks for everything. Good night, everyone, and Happy New Year's. Bull XRP, Happy New Year's. See you next year. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great live. Thanks for the info. In case there's no live tomorrow, Happy New Year's, Miles, and all CMF. Let's go for forever. Happy New Year's as well. Happy New Year's and Ray. And thanks, Miles, and have a great night. Here's to an amazing 2025. Happy New Year's. Let's go autistic. Happy New Year's as well. Miles, you don't have to justify taking a day off. It is a holiday and it is New Year's. True. Shelly. And thanks for all you do, Miles, mods, and the CMF family. Happy New Year's. All God bless. All Ginos, let's go. Happy New Year's as well. Thank you for this year. We will be with you in the new one. Let's go. Michael Fax. Good night, everyone. Happy New Year's to you all. Golden Dragon, good night to you as well. Happy New Year's to all as well. So, I will be seeing all of you next year, pretty much. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, see you next year. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. See everyone next year. Same timing as usual.